The link in the description is only there to see the source material. Do not under any circumstance go to these people with the intent to be a dick. I don't support witch hunts or lynch mobbing, so don't be either. As for the subjects themselves, my video is for the purposes of criticism and entertainment. Take it or leave it. My content is not here to start drama. Please do not treat it like it is. This video talks about some controversial and potentially triggering topics. Viewer discretion is advised. So LioConvoy asked me to read over this document and give my thoughts as a third party. He did not tell me to make my own video about it. He mostly just wanted me to write my thoughts down for a video that he was making. But, as I was creating notes, I realized I was practically writing my own commentary script against it to begin with, and since he wanted me to give my thoughts, I'm going to give my thoughts. I will state out of the gate I haven't much idea what's going on, at least not beyond the videos that are currently public. It's also not my horse, not my race, I am not involved, but as I am overlooking this document as it was as of July 5th, the reason this is the case is because as I was looking over the document, things in it were supposed to be changing, and it is next to impossible to keep everything up to date with more things piled on. We'll come back to that later. Anything after the case, I will leave up to Lio, but even now, as the targeted audience for this document, I am seeing a few discrepancies that are pretty obvious even with a tertiary glance. So, context. This mostly seems to date back to the pretty infamous hypnotist Sappho situation. For those who don't know, Sappho was, frankly, I'm not sure, actually. I didn't bother to really look up what she did before all this. I could guess hypnotism ASMR, but that's really only an educated guess on my part. I could be wrong. It's not really important anyway, mostly because she was outed as a person who likes to be very openly inappropriate with animals. You know, a bit of a zoophile, right? So that's way more important than what she did before all of this. Look, I ain't getting monetization from this anyway, I don't have to care about being clean. Anyway, the whole situation was a pretty big explosion, and was even one of the very few times I can give Kiwi Farms, out of all places, their stupidly rare W. I recommend the video Ponder Sprocket did on the situation if you want more information, because it's a lot. Of course, if you watch me, you've probably already watched that video, but, you know, if on the off chance you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Moving on. During this situation, we were introduced to a user known as Coyote Lovely, a now ex-predator hunter who got really invested in Sappho to the point he joined her circles and flirted with her under the facade of merely trying to get information. It was all a big fucking lie. He was just also into that shit, I guess. Anyway, Coyote's actions were brought to the attention of LioConvoy, who was friends with Coyote at the time, as the two worked together in a group called the Senate, where they just deal with crazies all day, or at least so it seems as an outsider. Technically, I'm now in the chat due to a call that I was requested to be a part of, but full disclosure, I tend to have that chat pretty muted most of the time. I know most people in there don't like me, so I don't try to interact too much. Anyway, this information was brought up by a user known as Cass Warfox, who had their own group of predator hunters called the Fox Mafia, who were, understandably, under the assumption that Lio must have known everything beforehand and did nothing in retaliation. Lio did his best to clear up everything, even publicly disavowing Coyote and clearing his own house in the process. But then Lio noticed that the other side wasn't doing their due diligence with their own collection of rather problematic individuals. Particularly, users Gilded Pooh and Cedric Feldman. Pooh is someone who utilized actual bestiality porn within discussions to, and I quote, trigger sensitive Karens, a very pleasant individual that one. And Cedric apparently was so fucking delusional that he thought the Senate was a place where rapid onset gender dysphoria was taking place before making his own conspiracies about the Senate. And that's a whole different foxhole I don't particularly care to go down right now, but just know I think it's insane. After being criticized, Cass and friends started fighting back, and it turned into this big Predator Hunter versus Predator Hunter war, with both sides trying to get the other on hypocrisy. This is where the document I'm going to be talking about today comes in. A user known as NeorahPlayz wrote this 50-some-odd page document detailing what they think is good evidence against the Senate's misdoings, trying to make the point that the Senate is just running this big smear campaign against the Fox Mafia. And, well, as I said, there's kind of a reason I'm here talking about it today. Now, I'm not going to go over everything like I usually do and scan this line for line for every little chance I can to tear into this document. This isn't my usual brand of commentary. I will also not be going too much into things that are not already demonstrated within this document. If your allegations and evidence cannot hold their own, I'm not really going to care, and frankly, neither should anyone else. So I'm pretty much going to stick to what the document gives us. And finally, a lot of this will seem like a reaction over a full-fledged structured commentary, and this is in part because it was. These are just notes I jotted down while reading over the document. I did try to organize these thoughts as much as I feasibly could with what I was given, but as I will mention later, this document is kind of a mess. However, I will be going over more or less the entire document chunk by chunk to detail the allegations, the evidence, and the problems, because there is a lot. And to put it simply, I don't believe this person knows what they're talking about 9 times out of 10, and the other 10% is malicious twisting of context. But we'll get more into that as we persist, and you can make your own judgment by the end of it all. So, let's begin. To start with something comparatively innocuous, I hate how this document is formatted. I understand that this is a nitpick at the end of the day, but it's kind of obvious that this thing only reached the page count it did was because the writer started writing in a size 17 typeface and 22 spaced their paragraphs. I counted. One of them really is that long. Plus, I mean, obviously they're screenshots, but the writer couldn't decide if linking or screen capping was the best way to show their evidence, so there are times where we have both, or in some cases, multiple of the same archive, and it just looks messy at the end of the day. Plus, the document is also peppered with reaction images, because that's apparently what you want when you make serious allegations against another person. By the way, a few of these links don't even fucking work. We'll come back to that later. I also plan to go more into this throughout the rest of these notes, but their pieces of evidence are kind of not amazing. I mean, we'll go over individual examples later, but for now I want to focus on the use of themselves as evidence against Lio and the Senate, because they do this a few times. One, it doesn't particularly scream good faith to use this circular logic to talk about how your words prove your point. It's kind of on the same level as dude, trust me. But if we look more into the thread, you might find that their word alone is to be taken pretty lightly, but we'll have to come back to that a little later because it'll be more important then. I also want to point out, while I'm going over the more innocuous problems, this weird little comment where they get fixated on Lio's found family, saying that Hopeless Peaches was making mere sexually charged daddy jokes in some way, to say that there's a double standard with another user we'll come back to, wishing the most aggressively violent sexual comments upon Peaches, who is a victim of sexual assault, mind you. But that inherently divides the context of the actual relationship between Peaches and Lio being one of familial roots, not one of fetishistic roleplay. When Peaches refers to Lio as her father, or her dad, she refers to this as if he's an adoptive father, not a sexual partner. Not to poison the well early, especially with something that's not even comparatively that important to the rest of the allegations we'll get into, but if Neorah can't even get that much right without twisting it to fit a narrative, then I can't exactly say that I have particularly high hopes going through the rest of this document. Now, to get into the actual allegations, we can start with the claim that Lio doxed the individual's nickname, which becomes a pretty big focus throughout the first bit of the document. And everything about this segment is just baffling. The claim that Lio doxed a nickname, especially one like Rocky, is pretty laughable in of itself, because doxing is revealing of private identifiable information, and the name Rocky certainly wouldn't be identifiable to the writer of the document, at least no more identifiable than the name Neo, a name that's connected to the Twitter account that they link throughout the document. They go on to claim that their Facebook, where this information was supposedly held, was set to friends only, but if that was the case, how would Lio be able to gather that information? I mean, just searching Rocky on Facebook yields a lot of results, wouldn't it? How would he know that it's you at the end of the day unless you had this Facebook linked somewhere? And if it was linked somewhere connected to you, then congrats, that's not doxing. I mean, it's not doxing either way, but it certainly would not be so if your dumbass linked it somewhere. They claimed Lio used an IP grabber, and that's, I guess, reasonable, but that argument falls apart in a few ways. For one, you'd have to have clicked on a link that he sent you for this to be feasible, and two, it wouldn't tell you the fucking nickname of someone. It would give you their IP address, and maybe sites that they wind up going to, which I guess could lead them to a Facebook link, but it wouldn't give you the name of the account, because at worst, an IP grabber would only give you the sites. And since they say they had their account to set to friends only, that would mean that unless Lio was on their friends list, I doubt he would have been able to get in enough to see the nickname in the first place. But, more importantly, the writer debunks their own conspiracy by explaining that the nickname was on a public YouTube channel. However, decides to double down on this corkboard conspiracy that assumes Lio used some program called Spiderfoot to gather every bit of evidence he can on her. But then we would have to assume that Lio is some sort of master hacker, which is hilarious to me because he's notoriously a boomer, and I love that mental image. Even if they want to somehow insinuate that Lio's intentions were malicious, or that he somehow knew it was a nickname instead of an alt name, as they put it, which is redundant because a nickname is inherently an alternative name to call someone, but whatever. More than that, it just doesn't actually matter since he's not using that name to explicitly nor implicitly expose you or silence you. All he really did at the end of the day was call you Rocky and tell you to calm down. And you're going on this huge diatribe trying to turn this on him as if he's somehow this Machiavellian supervillain who intends to do evil within his own right, when you have no evidence of that either. And in fact, have evidence of Lio saying he just used the name Rocky to make fun of you explicitly. You kinda need harder evidence to assume intentions of someone than mere allegations and conspiracy, things that unfortunately this document is going to rely on a lot. Within the video that they linked through the Google Drive, the user constantly inferred a lot of assumptions from Lio's end, saying that Lio claimed to have nearly guessed the account and by some cosmic miracle magically just knew which Rocky account was theirs, but like, my sister in Christ, I found your Rocky channel through your DeviantArt which was linked to your Twitter. I didn't need a fancy piece of software to do that, and when asking Lio myself, that's what he said he did too. Also, did he use an IP grabber or did he use an intelligence program that tracks your information in a similar light to the White Pages website? Make up your mind. Your story changes like 3 or 4 times and it's really obnoxious. This whole focus on the account in general is just distracting from the main points of the document, by the way, seeing as they're the first and the most harped on things for like 9 pages, which anyone reading who even has a decent idea as to what the fuck doxing is, much like myself as someone who has been, real address and all, might have just about clocked out by now because a nickname isn't a dox. No matter how strange it might have been that Lio knew it to begin with. It's almost as if you don't want to put a focus on anything that actively debunks Lio, which I assumed this document was attempting to do, and instead just put more focus on ways to lazily discredit him without much care as to the points he's made against you. Now, I want to focus a bit more on the person's general grasp of what evidence is, because some of this is kind of fucking rich. Let's talk about the biggest allegation throughout this document, which is Lio's alleged tendency to omit information and his double standards. So one of the accusations against Lio and the Senate is this idea that they all knew of the actions and intentions of Coyote Lovely, but chose not to do anything about it until a month after they already knew? However, there's a few problems with this. For one, and this is the more nitpicky of the issues, they link 3 things back to back but only insinuate that one of these links is evidence supporting the idea, which my guess is the third one since they specify it was recorded March 3rd, 2023, to which neither of the YouTube videos they link fit that bill, but they also call it a video when it's an audio recording. Again, it's a minor thing, but it still bugged me, and it can still kind of confuse outsiders on what it is you're referring to when you don't make things clear. Anyway, to get on to the more important issues with this piece of evidence is how it is framed. The writer makes a note to say that this recording proves that both, A, Lio settled in inaction for a month prior to outing Coyote and removing him from the Senate, and B, this recording supposedly proves that Lio taking issue with Gilded Pooh's behavior was all a big nothing burger, so let me break this down. For one, Lio out of the gate does admit that while yes, he was made aware of Coyote's behavior, he actively tried to steer Coyote away from partaking in this operation and getting close to hypnotist Sappho, straight up telling him that this was dumb behavior.
Coyote contacted me on January 7th. Oddly enough, he initially contacted me about something completely different, and while he was talking to me, he brought up his op on Sappho. He told me that he was flirting with her to try to get information. He gave me the rundown about the alleged arrest warrant, and I told him in no uncertain terms, this is dumb, and you shouldn't be doing it, and you need to stop. The Coyote was dead set that he'd get information. And then I find out like a month later he decides to end it and blames Pizza for talking about it on Kiwi Farms, despite Alex apparently doing so well before Pizza did.
Lio then persists to inform Pooh that some of the information that he was given was falsified by some uncertain informant, I'll admit I'm not entirely sure on the details, nor do I entirely grasp how fully relevant this particular instance of being acknowledged is, but it caught my ear as I was listening, and if nothing else it shows that Lio was juggling between fabrications and legitimacies, thus being a probable source as to why it would have taken so long, in Neorah's mind, for Coyote to have been outed. Though more on that later.
At least one person that talked to Coyote about or was involved in this has we just found out today has actively lied about what they knew. It's not Pizza, it's not anybody specifically in Cass's server, so if you're worried about that, don't be. But
I wasn't. I'm not shocked.
And it's irritating because I'm frankly glad. I'm just tired of people lying to me. 'Cause I didn't. It's my one golden rule, man. You can be a dick if you want. You can say all sorts of horrendous things. Just don't freaking lie to me.
We get a little bit more information from Lio's end as he talks about this relationship between Coyote and this other user by the name of Alex, which Lio details was found out to be a closer relationship than what was previously thought of during the operation. Only after he and Coyote had their Discord call, obviously referring to a video that Lio put out on his channel on February 26th, 2023, earlier that week from when Lio and Pooh allegedly had this conversation. At least I think so. This does come back up a little bit later, I think.
Pizza had come to me with a screen cap from Alex, where Alex was essentially, I can't remember the exact specificity of it. I could actually, hold on, I could probably pull that up here. Give me a second. Just give me a moment. What? Ah, here it is. This was on the 4th. So this is when Coyote told Pizza about the op. Let me pass it to you. And Pizza came to me asking about Coyote and Alex's affiliation. And I saw this, I'm like, look, Alex has got some mental health issues, and he's really stupid in the sense that he tries to help everybody, but he probably shouldn't. So at this point, for what he's doing here, I just make fun of him and tell him to knock it off, right? Because Pizza was under the impression that Alex is a high-ranking member of Senate, when even when this happened, he wasn't there. He bailed a long time ago, and he was never in moderation. But I told him I don't think Coyote and Alex are very close, only for like 3 days later when the call between me and Coyote happened, and Coyote told me that Alex was working with them. Yeah, apparently they're closer than I thought they were. And Coyote just told me it was flirting. That's all Coyote told me. I still told him it was bad. That like Alex and Hate were keeping an eye on Sappho's server, which I can understand, because Sappho has a tendency of going after kids. I can understand wanting to report on that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But the gay op and flirting with a pedophile, a zoophile, like, I would never even think of doing something like that. It's just so outside the realm of sanity. And I told Coyote in the call, you shouldn't do this for these reasons. One reason, you don't know if you're going to get even going to be valuable, and you are threatening to sully your own reputation. And in this field, you can't do that. People have to know they can trust you, and they have to know that you can be trustworthy with information. If you're literally out there caught and around with people you know, 100% know, are predators, you're going to get in trouble. And people aren't going to trust you. So Coyote does this entire stupid stunt, lies to everybody, because it wasn't just flirting. It wasn't just flirting. And now everybody else is in the hot seat because Coyote lied to people.
Yeah, well, it doesn't look like it was just flirting to me either. There's a lot of stuff that seems off. But Pizza sent me, actually, the same screenshot you sent me. And he sent it to Coyote. And that's when Coyote brought up the entire thing with the air quotes op thing.
If you also caught that, Lio had detailed that Coyote himself lied about what the details of his op was, thus calling back to the idea of juggling true and false statements. This is important to acknowledge because if Lio is being actively lied to, then how is he supposed to know that Coyote continued this behavior or had gotten worse about it? The obvious answer should be he wouldn't, but something tells me that wouldn't be good enough for the writer of this document. All this together allows us to see a better picture of this situation from Lio's end, that while he may have known that Coyote was pulling this stunt, at the end of the day, Lio thought that talking him down from it would have been enough to prevent any future misdoings on Coyote's end. Spoilers! It wasn't. But Lio didn't know that until he was just about calling Coyote out publicly. Hell, even Pooh acknowledges this dishonesty from Coyote's end within this very same call.
What I'm getting from this is at no point did Coyote just volunteer that information to you on his own will.
Well, no, he never just came to me and said, Lio, we need to talk about something I'm doing. It was always like tangential to other things. And I think I'm picking up what you might be putting down here, that he was just offhandedly mentioning it in hopes that if he did that, if it all went sour, he could say, well, I told these other people.
Yep.
Yeah.
That seems to be the pattern. So far, like, 3 people have a very similar story and backed it up. So, and what you're saying falls in line with what everybody else has said, which makes sense.
Doubly so when you consider this moment in the call.
And what really irritates me about that, real quick, before I continue, I got thrown under the bus by Coyote for all this, and Cass was looking at me sideways because of Coyote's nonsense. And that I certainly don't appreciate, and that's also another reason why I'm never going to identify with Coyote ever again, and he's going to stay gone forever.
Well, I mean, think about it from the other side of the coin, okay?
Oh no, I understand why he thought it. Like, I don't fault him at all, and I told him that this morning. Like, I don't fault you thinking that. Because from an outside perspective, it's probably what it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, like, first off, it is Coyote's fault in the first place, partially. Coyote did a couple times say that you knew, like, the whole time. So
yeah, he did say that, but all he meant by that was he knew I was doing Yop. I had no clue that this moron was having woo-woo conversations. I didn't know he was having fetish art drawn of him and Sappho. That's not flirting.
So to say that this call proves that Lio partook in inaction is just demonstrably false, and I'm not sure how you could listen to this call with a different insinuation in mind, at least not in good faith. It almost seemed like you wanted to find a different and much more uncharitable read into this for the allegations to really work, but it just doesn't. I'm sorry. This allegation comes up a few more times in the document in other fonts. One where Neorah tries to claim that Lio and Peaches suppressed a recording that proved they knew Coyote Lovely was mingling with another fucko called Zercarlo, and manipulated what they did reveal more publicly to admit its damning evidence against them. However, one, Lio never really made a video talking about Zercarlo. Perhaps he was going to, and maybe something came up. In fact, I can promise you something did come out, because I asked him, but I don't know if that's something that I can touch on personally. That's frankly something that Lio would have to answer for himself, as I don't think I would do it much justice. However, what I can touch on is what happens when one watches the call linked.
Hello.
Alright, you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I have literally less than no clue who you are outside of the fact that you're Coyote's roommate, and you run the Zoophile Scruggs accounts for whatever reason. Lately, Coyote's been kind of getting inundated with people accusing you of being a zoophile. What is this all about?
Oh my goodness. So back in 2018, I ran the Zoosadist investigations, like the one that had Kiro in them and everything. I don't mean to take a bunch of, credit for a lot of it, but I kind of ran the bridge community, which was ZSIS, also colloquially known as ZISIS for hilarious reasons. So it was a bridge between the Kiwi Farms people, the Zoophiles, and a few other small independent groups like Dog Patches Group and Fur Vengers, which split off from mine. And because I would listen to what Zoophile said, I got labeled as a Zoophile. Although that wasn't actually the biggest problem at the time, ironically enough. The biggest issue at the time was I was helping moderate Xanadu, which was a split off of the Alt Furry chat room, which was frankly a big mistake. I didn't think it was important. So got labeled as a Nazi, and then when Nazi was not as trendy anymore, got labeled as a Zoophile, and then when Zoophile wasn't as trendy anymore, got labeled as a Zoosadist, and a bunch of that stuff was actually by Saul Skunk, who basically... Oh, that's an interesting situation.
Out of the gate, Zercarlo can control the narrative to say that the accusation of zoophilia on their account is bad faith. Lio came in not knowing who the fuck they were, and so this dialogue is his first introduction to the situation. Now, yes, Zercarlo admitting to being a bridge between zoophiles and Kiwi Farms is definitely something we can talk about, especially knowing what we know now of the dude. And When I say we, I mean the royal we. I don't think I'd have much to say on the matter other than I think it's a little sus, but considering what I just went through, I don't think there's much of an explanation there. Anyway, Zercarlo and the call get a bit sidetracked when talking about Kiwi Farms and whether or not Zercarlo would be able to post on the threads to debunk any false claims made against them. Lio saying it's something you can do, apparently, something that I actually didn't know was an option. It would have been nice to know when I was 19, I'll tell ya. And Zercarlo mentioning their concerns with what may happen if they do. It's not really related, so we'll just skip ahead to the next bit.
I have a question about this drugs account, because I watched, I think, your preamble video on it. Did you say it was owned by minors?
Yeah, it was owned by minors, and then it was passed on to a person who was 17, and
Also
they
minor.
owned it. And then they turned 18, and I exposed them.
Okay. Another random question I had real quick. So you, once it was taken down, you took ownership of it, but the
Yeah.
question I have pertains to the handle that's under your YouTube account name. You openly asked questions about sex ed and experience regarding sex to people of any age, which included minors. Can you explain to me the rationale of that or the relevance of that?
I mean, I made a post asking what people learned in sex ed, and people responded.
Do you think that was something appropriate to discuss?
I don't understand the problem with going on Twitter and asking what people learned in sex ed, especially if it relates to, like, I mean, sex ed is for minors.
This, of course, being where things kind of start to fall apart for Zercarlo, but this doesn't really paint them as a predator, more so just as someone who doesn't understand optics or the moral implications of the stupid stuff they're pulling on Twitter. It's something to criticize, for sure, but it's not something that's really expose-worthy, at least not yet. We'll keep that on the burner for now, though.
That's what it is. That's what we all learned in school.
Okay.
Are you just really bad at the understanding of optics?
Yeah.
Probably.
It's one thing to ask, like, I don't know, 18-plus-year-olds if their experience with sex ed was different than yours. You shouldn't really be asking kids their opinions on that sort of thing.
Can I ask a
So
question very quickly? I just want to clarify, just since I am recording. The question, was that just in a tweet, not directed at anybody, or was it directed at somebody?
It
was just
it was a tweet on his account.
Yeah.
Okay,
He
but
was
my
asking
question...
in general. He didn't specify age. He just said any age. Or
okay,
actually, the specification was any age.
okay, so it was not directed at anybody in general. I think... Okay, so it basically was asking a general question to the people following the account. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted to have that on record. Because I just didn't want it to be misconstrued as, oh, he asked minors specifically, or he did not ask minors specifically. That's all I'm doing is clarifying.
Coyote here definitely doesn't help the narrative, and he kind of weighs on my patience a bit. Almost seems like a narrative is being played, though considering how inept they seem to be about everything, I'm not sure if it's actually malicious.
Carlo, how old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay, you're definitely old enough to know what we're talking about and know better than this. Would you walk up to a literal child and ask what they were taught in sex ed, like one-on-one in real life?
No, but if
Why?
I make
Why?
a post on...
Why?
Because talking to children is bad.
Because talking to children about what they learn concerning sexual education, if you are an adult, is inappropriate. That's what hate's getting at and what you seem to be struggling with.
So, okay, on Twitter, what do you recommend, to... I don't know, like... Do I...
Before you
call
ask
them
that,
minors?
hold on, before you ask that, I want you to take a look real quick. Without clicking on the link, just look at what you posted, the Saul skunk evidence. Do you see what says right underneath that?
Yeah.
What does it say?
18 plus, not safe for life content inside.
18 plus only. Yeah, that's what you do. It's not difficult. You already know how to do it.
Maybe it's weaponized incompetence, who's to say?
Okay.
And just, again, because I'm recording, I do want to clarify, this was not a directed question, but it was also not... The precautions were essentially just not put in place that should have been. That's kind of the criticism here?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to say that I necessarily disagree with that. That's definitely something that could be fixed. I would agree.
Now, again, this isn't something to label Zercarlo as a predator about. Bad optics does a predator not make. I promise this is going somewhere, but for now, let's continue. We'll skip a lot of the talk about how Zercarlo doesn't understand real life, mostly because we get the picture by this point and it kind of gets harped on quite a bit. And while I'm no stranger to several-hour videos, frankly, I don't want to stay on this subject for too long, so the TLDR is Zercarlo was apparently in a cult until they were in their 20s, they work from home, they don't get out much. I'll also be skipping like 5 minutes of them talking about a block bot that Zercarlo had that blocked Lio because I don't really care. It doesn't really paint Zercarlo as anything more than a bit paranoid. Whatever. This next part's gonna get a little long though, so bear with me. It's all important.
The Slugma account. They must have been following you.
This is the dumbest thing ever.
Well, I panicked, and I saw Laxmi existing again, so I red blocked them.
Why did you panic over this person?
Because they attacked me one time, and they are responsible for bullying one of my friends when they were suicidal on Antoon's server.
Okay, what did they say?
Why were you on Antoon's server?
Because he was nice to me.
Okay, what did this Slugma person say about you?
I'm about to lose my patience.
It's
Well,
fine,
yeah.
Lyle. I'm diverting the topic real quick. What did this Slugma person say about you?
I mean, they were talking to the owner of Persona Pins, which I really, really liked, and they put racist stuff, so I red blocked them.
Oh, okay. But you said that they attacked you.
They attacked my friend that was suicidal.
Did they...
I mean, that's a direct attack on me, because I care about my friends.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything... I can probably translate whatever points you want to make for Zercarlo. Zercarlo's kind of special. I'm sorry, Zercarlo, I love you, but you're kind of special. So
No. I appreciate that, Coyote, but Zercarlo's got to learn to stand on, I don't know what the pronouns are, but their own two doggone feet. You are 33 years old. 33.
Yeah.
I do not need communication in memes. I do not need communication in inside jokes. What I need is yes and no's and genuine reasons why things happen. If you do not understand why you should understand certain things, asking that question is fine, but be aware you are 33. You are old enough to be my younger brother. I don't have one. I don't know your gender. Just making that as a point. Either way, you should be beyond this. You refuse to interact with the people accusing you on Kiwi Farms, even if you have damning evidence against them. Instead, you spam a link wherever people accuse you outside of Kiwi Farms, realizing literally nothing about the fact that this does not actually help your case. You interact with minors concerning sexual topics, despite knowing the fact that your previous Zoofile Strugs account, under its previous owner, got in trouble for far worse actions, because you don't look at the optics of that. You're still operating Zoofile Strugs accounts, even though people are constantly accusing you of nonsense. For what purpose?
I really, really want Persona Pins.
This doesn't...
I don't like I'm having a fun time!
I'm sorry,
This
I'm
is
really
not-
sorry.
And this is
I'm not in the mood to joke! It isn't
This
funny!
wasn't a joke.
What does the pins have anything to do with any of this?
I, for the first time in my life, found something that I liked.
I like keeping children
You
safe.
are a furry, and this is the first time you found something you liked?
Yeah.
What is it you liked? I'm listening. What is it?
I'm
Like.
trying.
I can hear the cat in the background. The cat is kind of upset right now, so I think that might be something to do with it.
No.
I didn't come in here wanting to yell at you, but when I'm asking you very specific, direct questions and you turn it into a joke, that's not funny to me.
That's not a joke.
That you literally said like the dumbest reason.
I
I
started
don't care.
laughing afterwards. Do you not understand that that is how somebody sees something as a joke?
Oh, hold on. No, in fairness, I started laughing. I think that was a response to me laughing. That's a very common one that happens even inside like other situations. Like that's not an uncommon response that Zercarlo has had when I start laughing. That's my fault, not theirs.
So what is it like?
I'm trying to think. Sorry, I'm just crying.
Yeah, I can tell.
It was like they're not really handmade, but they're made by an artist.
What does this
And-
have to do with the Zoofile Strugs account?
was banned from their chat room for just existing.
What are you going on about?
Okay, hold on.
It's not gonna make sense.
Hold on.
It-
Hold on. Just everybody, hold on. Can we just like, for 1 second, just regroup and just get everyone on the same page of what the exact topic is? Just that way, so we can get really clear answers and move forward with this. Because even I'm starting to get lost because of everything that's happened now.
All I ask is, if this is a detriment to who you are, if you do not know how to interact with the optics of the internet versus reality, if you don't even know how reality freaking functions, why do you still operate these accounts that are constantly pointing a finger at you? Your response was, I like pins.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, hold on.
I mean,
Zerkalo, I'm going to clarify this for you. The question is, what is the motive for operating, I believe anyway, what is the motive for operating accounts like Zoophile Strugs? Is that correct? Is that an accurate portrayal of what the question is?
I guess, yeah, I think. Sorry, I'm trying to...
He was asking me, and the answer is yes.
Okay, that's the question presented right now. We don't need answers about Persona. I know you like Persona pins, but that's not what the question is. It's genuinely, what is the motive for operating an account like Zoophile Strugs? But since we've had that clarification. Did my internet die?
No, I'm just...
I'm literally giving the courtesy.
I'm just upset.
Zerkalo, I really need you to answer this question.
So, what is the purpose of me running the Zoo Strikes account?
Yes. The fourth time.
I'm trying to think.
Why did you even want it in the first place? It was the account that you were calling out for. Well, it was an account that you intentionally baited so that they misrepresent what you were saying. Why would you want an account that has like a reputation like that on top of that? I'd like you to answer Lio's question first, but it's just, I don't know why you're operating an account that has such a tainted backstory.
I guess I'm not sure what else to do.
What does this have to do with pins?
Well, when I got banned from the Persona pins for, like, being called a Nazi and everything, I told myself that that needs to change. Like, I need to show people I'm a better person.
Well, yes, because apparently you associated with furry raiders and you made artwork that's apparently similar to Nazi attire, and I looked at that, I was like, so you're throwing guilt by association, and you're pointing out his choice of art style,
I mean,
design, and character design. It's like, great job.
what am I supposed to do?
I laugh at them and make fun of them for being stupid.
But I got banned.
And?
And
But yeah, do you know how many things I've been banned from?
Yeah, I don't know,
Okay, I'll give you an
I have
example.
to-
Since you are genuinely struggling, I'll give you an example here. My favorite cartoon is Thundercats. I have been banned from Facebook groups and the two most prominent message boards discussing this series. You know what I do about those people? Make fun of them. Because the reasons I got banned were ridiculous. Asinine.
I just
Born
wanna
out of stupidity. I'm not done. You want to make something, you can do it without operating the goofiest, dumbest account possible that makes you look stupid. I'm not saying that because I don't like people dunking on Zoophile. I'll do it all day long, and I'll do it twice on Sundays. The point is, whatever happenstance, are struggling in terms of social interaction, are struggling in terms of optics, and every possibility you have to present yourself from being labeled as negative things, you ultimately shouldn't shoot in the foot by your own actions or inactions. So, if you want pins, just commission an artist to make them.
Sorry that one dragged out a little long, but let's really boil this down for y'all in the back that may be having a hard time with all this. The crux of this part of the conversation isn't that Zerkalo is a zoophile, it's that Zerkalo is, at best, misguided, immature, and stupid. This is later cemented by later on in the call when Lio breaks down everything for Zerkalo directly to them for like 7 minutes.
What I've seen, you know what the big problem here? You want to know the person most responsible currently for the situation you're in? Do you know who that is?
It's myself, that's fine.
Right. So enough of the, well, that's not the way it is. You made that choice. You made that choice to not grow and not move on. Whether it be because you decided to hyperfixate in the furry fandom for all the godforsaken reasons you could have done that. Look, it's obvious that the main reason why you run this account is because you want positive attention from it. You want to try to prove to people that you're not a bad person and that you can do good things, therefore you operate this account.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
Well, what do I do? What else do I do?
Stop trying to prove to people that you're a good person and just be one.
Didn't work.
It didn't work. In what way did it not work and what were you doing?
I was nothing but kind to the people in the Persona Pins chat, and I just got kicked. And then I was just in whatever
You know
other
how
chat.
you know how you respond to that? Shaking the dust off your feet and moving on with your life.
Well, where else am I supposed to go?
Anywhere!
Anywhere.
Anywhere! You realize you can move outside of the furry community, right? There's plenty of other online communities and real-world communities you can be part of. So why are you focusing on furries?
I like drawing and I like making fursuits.
You can do both without focusing hyperly on furries!
How am I supposed to advertise?
Oh. Okay, how skilled of an artist are you?
Pretty good. I could just draw pictures.
I mean, I can send you examples of the work they've done for me.
Please.
All right, give me 1 sec.
That's fine.
Now I fully understand why Coyote didn't want to do this call in Senate, because he's right, you would have gotten your throat ripped out.
Mm.
Where is it?
I'm drawing the images of my fursuits.
Do you not understand that an artist's work can be applied in more than just one genre?
Fursuits are for furries.
Here's what being a fursuit maker teaches you. It teaches you measuring, cutting, following patterns, how to lay fabric, how to lay textures, how to build based on proportions. You can apply that to any form of costuming.
I
Actually,
don't do that.
I think Brownies use them too.
The bronies are diet furries.
It's not really the same.
Why not? How is it not the same?
Because you don't use the same fabric. And you don't use the
Still-
same form.
It's still fabric. You can still apply this skill to other communities that are not as woefully morally bankrupt as the furry community. You see the problem here is you get kicked by this community, and like a whimpering dog, you go back to them. If they kick you, bite them. Go back for seconds.
I'm not gonna bite people that want to be my I'm friends with zoophobes. I'm friends with all these other people because I fought for them.
You just went on about how you're not these friends, how you want friends. Now you're saying you have friends. You can have friends outside of the ridiculous community that is the furry community.
They're
Here's
furries.
my point. Oh, about to lose it. I'm about to genuinely lose my patience with you. You are almost my age, and you are willfully missing my point. You know the problem here? You have one thing in common with Cord. You're both obsessed with this ridiculous community to the point where you refuse to see past it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay. I don't understand anything outside of it, but
How do you think you learn?
I don't know.
Well, what's
No, hold on. You don't know. What do you do for a living?
I just sell on eBay.
Did you magically know how to do that day one?
No.
Had to do what to do it?
I moved in with a guy and he taught me how to do it.
Had to learn, right?
Yeah, but it's
You
not
go
something
somewhere and you learn. You pick it up as you go. I have been trying my best to keep my patience with you because I care about Coyote and Coyote cares about you, and I'm genuinely hoping Coyote doesn't hate me by the end of this call because I'm going a lot harder on you than I expected to. But I thought I was dealing with somebody in their early 20s. I didn't think I was dealing with somebody in their mid-goddamn 30s.
I mean, there's not really much I can do about that.
You can
I
do
mean-
everything. You can do everything. You make your choices. You and no one else.
I mean, I think it's important to just say what you want in life, and I want to make artwork. I want to make I want to make fursuits, and I don't know, like,
You need to grow up. Emotionally, mentally.
We veered so far away from the main topic that I don't know what else.
well,
Veer from the topic because ultimately it all comes back to the fact that your friend here doesn't understand how things work.
it doesn't seem that they're that well adjusted, Coyote. That's what Lio's point is.
Okay, I understand. Like, I understand that that's your point, but at the same time, regardless if it's, I don't even know how to address any of this right now, except just to say, this is like not what the call that I was anticipating was going to be about. So I don't even realize, like, I don't know how we got here. I would appreciate if we could just sort of table this until another date where we can regroup and just kind of not have tensions be this high. Like, can we do that?
Consolation. I didn't expect it to go like this either.
Again, this is a result of a single question that I had.
I hate that there's so much goddamn context for this segment. Look, the point is, this doesn't prove that Zercarlo is a zoophile. There's nothing damaging more about this call that wasn't shown in Hopeless Peaches' video about everything relating to Zercarlo. The rest of the call only proves that Zercarlo is very detached from reality. The Fursona pins thing is probably the most damning part about it, so Peaches showing what she did in her video is perfectly fine. Especially when the rest of her video, she explains more about Zercarlo and spotlights how they actually were a zoophile, using things that the rest of the call doesn't give. Actually, I would personally argue that it's better that Peaches only showed what she did, because the rest of that call could have given Zercarlo some benefit of doubt to people. Don't worry, I see y'all who infantilize autism out there. You really have to understand better than that. But more so, doesn't this document also mention Peaches' video on Coyote too? Like a video that does give more context to the Fursona pin segment from the Zercarlo video? Why the fuck is Neora complaining that more wasn't shown when it was? Was it just because the full call where Zercarlo mentions how they were in a cult for 20 years wasn't shown? Like, what, honestly, else was in that call that could anyway lead back to Lio and Senate revoking important information from the public? Now, as for the Pooh's behavior claims and the claim of Lio's general double standards, we'll have to touch on several arguments made throughout this document to really outline where Neorah falls flat here. And we'll start by going back to the call with Pooh that supposedly debunked Lio's problems with the Fox Mafia. I guess you could come to some idea if you squint your brain a bit that because Lio is much more cordial with Pooh in this call now, that somehow that must mean Lio had never any problem with Pooh's behavior. This is in line with the beginning of the document where the writer claims pretty quickly that Lio even admits to the fact that his criticisms of this gilded Pooh person are minute at best, and therefore any argument he may have against the group are very moot. But when you read the tweet that they linked, that's not what Lio says. Lio is making an argument under the presumption that you can dismiss the issues that he has with Gilded Pooh, and then persists to bring up a much more pressing matter that claims you and your group are dismissing claims of a convicted child predator under the notion that their actions are merely ones of the past. That doesn't suddenly mean that what Lio might have to say against Pooh isn't also of importance. But why wasn't it brought up in the call, you might be raising your finger in protest, in which one possible answer is simply, Pooh wanted answers, and Lio was fed up with Coyote, obviously. Just because you're able to be cordial with someone and have a productive and civil conversation about something that you're both in an agreement on, doesn't suddenly mean that you either don't have any problems with the person you're discussing with, nor does it even mean that you like the person that you're talking to. And frankly put, the fact that you might even insinuate otherwise says more about you than it does Lio. The second possible answer comes in the form of time frames. You say that this call was recorded in March, yeah? So even if I'm wrong about the first possible answer and Lio didn't have problems with Pooh at the time of that call, that tweet, mentioned just a bit ago, was posted 2 months later. So for all I know, as an outsider not paying super close attention to this drama, this could tell me that Lio started having problems with Pooh sometime between the 2 months. This comes back later in the document where, alongside a tweet of Lio explaining how a meme he posted in Senate is not the same as Pooh's bestiality porn, and another broken link, we then get to a recording from August of 2022 where Pooh explains that he personally doesn't care about the bestiality being posted.
This is what Opal's saying in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 images of prolapse, which is absolutely hilarious, by the way. And the zoophilia porn, which, I mean, look, again, I don't give a shit. As I said, ultimately, I just don't fucking care. I mean, like, we had flip phones, right, back in the day, and we were sending each other really fucked up shit like that. I mean, do you remember, there was another website that was even more fucked up than that, and I can't remember what it was called, something rotten.
Yeah, something.com.
Yeah,
Yep.
and all it was about was fucking gore. And,
Yep.
and that was where, and people would pass that around to fucking shock people and fuck them up and everything, right? It's just like, it's one of those things where I just don't give a shit.
Well, it's also pretty obvious that you're not much serious about any of this. You just do it for the lulz.
But this doesn't reflect on Lio? Like, at all? The most he said was that Pooh doesn't seem to be taking any of this predator hunting seriously, and that he's only here for the lulz, which is something that Pooh himself has said on a couple of occasions. One instance we'll see here in a minute because it does come back to a part of Neorah's allegations. However, with all that said, even had this reflected on Lio and he agreed, all it would have shown is that he also didn't care as much for the zoo porn than he would have whatever this call was about. It's kind of isolated from its context, and so I have to wonder if there was more to this conversation than Neorah shows, but whatever. The point is that Lio isn't agreeing here. He is acknowledging Pooh's own personal dismissal. If we look at this from the perspective that it's not taken out of context, however, just for the sake of this argument, while that would have definitely reflected poorly on Lio at the time, this was also August of 2022, almost a whole 7-8 months before Lio called out the behavior of Pooh actually having and posting that zoo porn. There is a multitude of new information that could have come out between these two events. Lio also could have realized, like, the gravity of Pooh also having that zoo porn to begin with, or had changed his own personal stance to be stronger against it than he was at the time. With allegations like these, you need to establish a proper time frame in order to show that there is a discrepancy between one's words and their contradictory actions. Otherwise, circumstances could have changed, and in more extreme examples, one's view and perspective could change as they grow. This doesn't show fucked morals, at least not inherently, and you'd need much more concrete evidence to really make that claim. They do try giving that more concrete evidence with 3 extra links, and these links are somehow worse, as the first 2 are backed up Senate chat rooms, but oh my god, there is so much to go through in these logs that it would take forever to weed out anything that you're talking about. Like, I appreciate you wanting to give context, that's really important, and it's something not enough people do when making allegations. But there's giving context, and then there's overloading your accusations with context that readers will drown in. It's almost like having an evidential form of gish galloping, where you pile on so much context that people you're making these allegations to will be overwhelmed by and cannot address it all in a timely manner or in an in-depth way. For instance, the first one that I looked through, the Backrooms logs, was 623 messages. With these messages already kind of seemingly taken out of context in some areas, or at least enough out of context where the flow of discussion has since been revoked. You claim that there was some dolphin vor in the chat and claim that as zoo porn, but you don't mention where in the logs it is, and instead just expect readers of this document to weed through 29 different chat logs on their own. No, not a single person should be expected to do that when you're the one trying to present allegations. Anyway, so I looked through the chat logs, or rather scrolled through them, because about an hour or 2 in I realized that most of these messages aren't relevant. Like, some of these date back to 2020, are you fucking kidding me? And, to my surprise, I did find it in the Rancor Pit chat. It was the first message posted there, so there's something. Though we do need to put into question what the room was used for, whether or not they were talking about this in a voice call or something, what happened after the picture was posted because the next messages weren't until the next day. So there could have been a discussion about this in the sense of the original poster being chewed out about it. The image has the benefit of being the first one posted in that room. Yes, it's inappropriate, though the Senate is an 18+ server, so one could argue it's not as bad as Gilded Poo apparently sending this same kind of material in chats with minors, but regardless, it is inappropriate. You want to know who else agrees with you, though? Lio, in a video he made only a handful of days prior to your document being made.
Why would I send them a picture whenever, or an animated drawing, whenever they go around sending a drawing of a dolphin in a horse butt?
Yeah, that's... Okay.
Wait,
yeah,
so that person did that, and they got mad at you for doing the same tactic to fuck with them?
I don't know if that person did that or not, but he's in the Senate.
Oh.
And they all do that in the Senate.
Yeah, I will,
I still think it's a retarded tactic, but at the same time, it kind of comes across like sort of like giving them the same thing they're doing to each other.
Kinda,
That was
but
the
I'm
intention.
curious. I'm curious, like, why do you just have that, though?
God, Vlad, why do
Oh
you
my
have
God,
it,
why
Vlad?
are so many crybabies? I have terabytes of it to point. Well, not just that, but also scat porn and stuff like that. And it's in a file called Trigger Faggot.
What the fuck?
And that's exactly why it's here, to trigger fucking faggot.
The zoo hunter doesn't care that his staff member has a ton of that material at the ready. The excuse was, well, Senate. Firstly, Gilded lied about the order of events, as you can see in the screen caps previously. Secondly, Cass excuses all of this over a dolphin comic. So let's talk about that real quick. There's a drawn internet shock image of a dolphin inserting itself into the womb of a horse that Senate member Baiji has posted in an 18+ server as a joke. Cass brought it up as this could be uncomfortable or even seen as bad optics, and I agreed, and I made sure it wasn't posted again in Senate. And the one person who was uncomfortable with all this was given an apology from me. And all of that was before the call I had with Cass Warfox about Gilded's actions. So to Cass, owning terabytes of real animal abuse, sharing those images in spaces that even minors are involved in, it's all okay as long as he gets an own on a shock image. Cool. Very cool.
So, that's dismissible almost entirely. Also of note, Pooh, when called out for it, didn't apologize and instead doubled down on it.
Ultimately, what happened was I got bored of the discussion, and and on Twitter, I posted a bestiality clip. And yeah, no, I'm not above it. I don't give a shit, right? It pissed them off. That was the goal. It had an amazing song in it. Anyway, and I can't remember. I think it was them trying to cancel me or something. I can't remember quite what it was. But anyway, I took a screenshot of that conversation. And I had posted said screenshot in the server. And I spoiled it. Like, I did the whole spoiler filter. And then warned people, you know, that it's going to be, you know, like I said, like, specifically open at your own risk. Right? Oh, yeah, I remember. It was actually a person that was defending Coyote and threatening to take down this server. That's what it was.
Oh, Daya.
Anyway, yeah, it wasn't Daya. It was, you're close.
Postal.
Postal, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and anyway, but I did that. So, like, but the problem wasn't that I posted it on Twitter. That would be a legitimate, like, I guess, legitimate, like, he posted bestiality porn on Twitter, right? That's not what they said. What they said was I posted unfettered bestiality porn randomly in the server.
So you posted this on Twitter and they said it was somehow in my server.
I posted a screenshot of that tweet thread in the server, censored it, and then said, open at your own risk. They took the screenshot and then said I instead posted the video in the server. Like, with nothing. And even Vash, whenever I told him about this, was like, yeah, you followed the rules. I don't see the big deal.
Was it like... The question is, was it like 3D bestiality? Was it actual bestiality?
It was
like...
actual
actual bestiality.
Like, it don't matter if you posted it in a chat or on Twitter. The fact of the matter is, this motherfucker posted actual bestiality porn against someone and doesn't see an issue with having it. But oh no, y'all want to get up in arms over the drawing and use that as a gotcha against Lio. Like, neither are good, mind you. But you may want to get your priorities straight before you start making accusations against each other. That's all I'm saying. The second piece of evidence linked is kind of just the same evidence as the first, so I don't care. Anyway, the last of the three things linked within this follow-up is a video on Gilded Pooh's channel criticizing Lio for a number of things. Among the criticisms is hypocrisy about LARPing, which, gonna be honest, I don't give a fuck. This is a nothing burger, frankly, because Gilded's examples of LARPing are 2 mentions of nerd things and then a skit introducing a previous topic of discussion on Lio's channel. Even then, it's not morally corrupt to play a role in a video when you're not in the midst of addressing allegations against you or needing to have a serious discussion. There's nuance to these things, and if this is really how you want to start your video, it's a sign of not amazing things to come, frankly. Which is immediately proven by Gilded Pooh doubling down on the zoo porn again. Like, how are you this fucking dense, Neora? How do you use this as evidence in defense of Gilded Pooh?
The allegation is that I own bestiality porn on a hard drive. In a file, actually, called Triggered Bad Word, right? And that's what everybody's bitching about, right? Very few people in this drama have actually seen the contents of this file, and they are more triggered by the actual existence of the file than they are of its contents, which is absolutely hilarious. Although, to be fair, technically speaking, they know of the contents of the file, because I've been very open about the contents of the file, but they haven't seen it. I could be lying, you know? I don't know, you know? But all I've said this entire time is I have like 14 terabytes of this zoo file porn, as the kids call it, along with scat porn, and some edgy memes, you know, whatever, right? But hey, it's just 100 terabytes. It's not that much. So the point is, at the end of the day, however, is that they're really upset by this. And the secondary allegation, which is also true, actually, is that I take this porn and I raid servers with it and post it in the servers, or I go on Twitter and I spam it at people on Twitter. And those things are true and also not new. I mean, here is a clip from about a year ago where the same fucking thing happened. The same whiny bullshit happened with somebody else entirely.
The reason he made this video, the sole reason, is because I sent scat porn and bestiality porn to 2 different people on Twitter as a troll to get a rise out of them for the lols, if you will, and he simply cannot handle that.
Yeah, just another pearl clutcher. The thing is, that you have to understand, is that I don't give a shit if you like that or not. I really don't. And at the end of the day, all I'm doing is trying to trigger you, and it's fucking working. It's hilarious. The mere existence of the folder is doing way more than the actual contents could ever possibly do. Hell, me actually writing fucking zoo porn XXXX on this fucking goddamn hard drive, well, actually it was technically on paper that was taped to the hard drive, did more psychological damage to these people. Thinking that this drive, this fucking IDE drive from 1999, thinking that it actually, unironically, contained the very folder I've been talking about, is more triggering to them than seeing the contents. Do you realize how thin-skinned that is? Do you realize how pathetic it is that the mere existence of a folder triggers you so much? It's weird. And the thing is, at the end of the day, this is only 2 petabytes. So, really, what I need to make you understand is that those parts of the allegations are true, okay? Now, you can cry about it, right? You can go in the comment section and say unsubscribe, just based on that alone. Just based on the fact that I own 14 petabytes of zoophile porn, and I own it strictly to trigger people, because I think trolling is fun. This is not unknown. This isn't a secret, as you saw earlier.
Like, this is fucking ludicrous. Why would I care to watch this when 10 minutes in and he's basically confirmed everything that Lio said about him? Dumbass. Anyway, so I watched the rest of Gilded's video, and while it's got its own fair share of flaws, like, I could make a whole video on this one piece of evidence alone. There are so many baseless assumptions, bad reads, bad arguments, and borderline conspiracy all throughout this video. But the biggest and most important thing is that he keeps reminding us that he has a fuck ton of bestiality porn on a hard drive, to which he constantly, jokingly hyperbolizes just how much he has all throughout this video. But this fact apparently then brings in the who rated with what, which would suddenly come into play according to him.
All I knew is they raided my fucking server, and by the way, posted a whole bunch of this fucking image that I'm censoring because fucking YouTube, which by the way, in case you don't know or can't really tell, it's a fucking dolphin going into the vagina of a fucking horse, right? It's full-blown, like, fucking cartoon-style feral, right? Much in the same way that Lolicon is cartoon-style child porn, right? And the thing is, they went in there and they posted it, which didn't even trigger me at all. They kept saying, you're triggered, you're deleting everything. No, actually, I'm not. And then, 6 hours later, I go into their server with a bunch of other people. They posted some bestiality and stuff like that. I posted a scat image and then gone. So, the truth is, at the end of the day, that's what happened. They didn't bother to actually confirm that information. And that's the part that kind of bothers me here, you know? Lio Man's like, yeah, you know, I'll correct it. You shouldn't have actually said it in the fucking first place. You literally took a piece of information you never even confirmed, and then you just plastered it in front of 30,000 people. You know what that's called? What's that called? Oh yeah, it's slander, actually. So yeah, even if you're willing to correct it now, which, fine, but you still didn't bother confirming it with literally anyone. I have multiple mods in my fucking server that could have checked the audit logs on that. Actually, they didn't even have to check the audit logs. The fucking room where all that's recorded is completely accessible for everyone. You never tried. At all. You could have came in with an alt or something. I don't know. The point is, that's insane. And that's legitimately fucked up. I think most people would agree with that. But you know what? Again, whatever. What do I know? I only have like fucking 37 yottabytes of zoophile porn that I troll people with, right? That makes me ultimate evil, right?
But like, no, it shouldn't matter, because that kind of content is reprehensible and illegal depending on where you are. I don't know, maybe Pooh Man lives in New Mexico or West Virginia. Look, the fact of the matter is, the admission to having that zoo porn on a hard drive to begin with is sus as fuck. Whether or not people in the early days of the internet sent shot content to one another, or whether or not you were only doing it out of retaliation, or whether you actually are a pedo or zoo hunter or not, none of that really matters at the end of the day, alright? I mean, I can make a very cogent argument that you partaking in pedo and zoo hunting purely for entertainment value and not to actually inform people about possible nonces in specific spaces is about as morally bankrupt as you can get without being one yourself, but whatever. That doesn't matter at the end of the day. What does matter is the fact that he does have that bestiality porn and that he does partake in this content, because that sets a precedent. It sets the precedent that literally nothing is off the table as long as we can, quote, trigger the snowflakes. Which thus means, if we were to utilize this same line of logic, someone could send Gilded Pooh actual child porn in retaliation to his bestiality porn, and it should be all a-okay, because it was only posted to try and rile up Pooh. People send shock content to each other all the time back in the flip phone days, after all. Like, why the fuck are you here then hunting pedophiles, or whatever it is you're doing in this pedo hunting circle? Now, yes, this criticism does extend to the Senate, at least to an extent, but it only goes as far as they need to pay attention to what they send going forward. This particular instance has been addressed. Lio actually took the criticism that was relayed to him and then went on to address and fix this behavior. So one piece of evidence is at best outdated and not worth the 30 minutes it is, and the other is overbearing with information but with barely any of the substance, and is outdated. Either way, the singular criticism you might have had towards Lio and the rest of Senate within the first fifth of this document has already been addressed and rectified, even predating your document. Hell, even in regards to their distraction, they can't even really do evidence correctly. You mean to tell me you wanted to make this big fuss about Lio not telling you how he got an account name, when that should not have been the main focus of your argument? Give us 6 links back to back of the supposed evidence that he was dodging the question, and the evidence is just Lio answering an unrelated question that you asked him through a third party, and then 5 back-to-back Discord messages where you just shit talk about him to your friends. Like, That is some amazing evidence you got there, bud. Because yes, Lio is purposely dodging the question and could not have just been not shown that particular question from your messenger, as it's not important to how he found a public fucking YouTube channel with your nickname attached to it. I cannot stress enough how much that whole thing was fucking stupid. You might have also remembered me saying that Neorah used themselves as proof against Lio, and so we'll break down one of those examples. So Lio and a user by the name of Vash had a pretty childish back and forth between the two of them that was thankfully pretty brief on Lio's end, where he makes a snide insinuation of what kind of consent towards animals Vash might read. Which is where Neo came in with a threat trying to outline double standards against Lio in favor of Coyote Lovely. Starting with a clip outlining a potential excuse in favor of Coyote not knowing heinous shit an artist he followed posted.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, when you favorite somebody, or rather you follow them, when they upload, does it show up on your feed like Twitter, or is it something you have to go look for, is my question.
It's something you have to go look for, but it also shows how many people you are actually watching. So essentially, you can't hide who you're watching on the site.
No. Well, that's obvious, because that's how you found out about all that, right? So my question was, all right, let's just, because with one of the guys whose name I can't remember, Ice something or the other, Coyote had liked some sort of wolf furry, and sometimes, and I think it happens with a lot of people who like art, they might look at one piece of art and follow the person without being fully aware of everything else they post, because it does happen sometimes. So that is why it's a little less concerning to me, because I think it's happened to just about anybody who follows an artist.
Neorah frames this clip against Lio to say that it was seemingly okay for Coyote to follow a particularly problematic account, but not an individual they call Seti, which I believe is in reference to a person they called Cedric mentioned within Lio's initial Cass Warfox video, but I guess Neo conveniently ignored the explanation surrounding that individual to begin with.
It seems, digging into Cedric's for Affinity account, that Seti here is really into feral porn himself. Some Balto action, a brush with the Berenstein Bears, very interesting. Even more interesting was when I had that call with Cass, Pizza, Keisuke, and Finnegan about Coyotes following similar events back in February before the stream. I told Cass about what I found on Cedric. And for some reason, despite Coyote's follows being the only concrete proof of serious wrongdoing at the time, I was expected to deal with Coyote in the moment despite having a medical reason not to until the end of the week. But Cass? Nah, despite everything he said during his edgy anime speech on his Coyote video about accountability, he didn't say anything to Cedric until after his stream on Coyote, only said it privately, and kept Seti around afterwards anyways. Rules for me, but not for thee, right? Keep in mind, I'm applying their standards here.
Lio, after being told by Cass about Coyote's follows at the time, was expected to drop everything, including a medical issue at the time, and deal with it right then and there. Whereas Cedric, someone within Cass's circle, was left to fester there until after already calling Coyote out about it, and then only within private, and still kept the guy around anyway. There's a particular nuance here that Neo completely disregards given the context of both individuals and their public condoning of problematic material. The difference between what Cass did and what Lio did is very cut and dry. Lio publicly called Coyote out after everything was brought to light and kicked Coyote out, whereas Cass did not do the same to Cedric. Cass instead decided inaction was the best course of action, so really, what does Lio have to answer for? Neorah then talks about how Lio treats victims, particularly weaponizing one Fursky Doodle to do so. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest, this part of the document is frankly scummy, and got me really angry as I was reading through everything, because this was arguably one of the more underhanded tactics in Neorah's document. So, for context, Fursky was mentioned within Lio's video about the Fox Mafia on account of her turning heel and targeting Peaches with pretty rancid comments. You know, despite Peaches being a victim of sexual assault herself.
Another person Cass Warfox has been promoting who joined in on the war against Peaches' 2 minutes of criticism is a person called Fursky. For those of you who do not know who this is, Fursky is somebody Coyote Lovely failed to do justice for as he didn't report her abuser to the police properly. She's also the person Coyote blew up on in Cass's stream.
Well, shit, guess, not all victims are created equal, guys.
Yeah, you're right. If somebody's still helping you and no one's helping the other person, I'm gonna fucking help the other person. Sorry, Fursky.
Despite Peaches defending Fursky against the nonsense from Coyote, it seems Fursky has done a 180 on their beliefs on who are and who aren't victims since Peaches criticized Cass Warfox.
What did poor widow wild man do to, piss you off? Come on, queen, you can spill the tea with old Fursky here. We're all victims of the internet. I mean, as it says in the video, all victims aren't created equal, are they? But I mainly say that because honestly, I want to take a jab at fucking Coyote. And now look at that. We're taking jabs at you.
Fursky in this video demands I discipline Peaches for harming Cass's ego in such a sexually graphic way that the video is now age restricted.
Like, what he got his fucking, like, ass gaped and torn asunder by fucking Lio-Man's giant, like, throbbing white barbed lion. And Peaches, I really hope, like, fucking Daddy Lio bends you over his knee for, like, the stupid shit you just pulled. Because I can't wait to, like, fucking see the video. Because if a video gets made of, like, you getting your fucking ass, like, fucking gaped like Coyote Lovely did, oh, it's gonna be so great.
What is it with this group and their sexual comments? This is directed towards Peaches, by the way, who people know is a victim of sexual assault. But some people are more victims than others, right, Fursky?
Neorah disregards that and hones in on the fact that Lio began criticizing Fursky at all, saying that Lio can no longer get onto Coyote Lovely's case for how he treated Fursky before. This is just shitty, frankly, and it's shitty because Neo is using a victim as a shield to excuse the Fox Mafia from doing whatever it is they want because they have a victim on their side, and I just cannot with you. So first of all, let's not ignore the nuance the two situations have to begin with. Coyote disregarded Fursky in favor of another victim, and then when questioned, blew up at her saying that he didn't care to help both victims because he saw one as more of a priority over the other, which is dumb.
Why the fuck did you say what you fucking said to Kaz, where you didn't want to go at length about the Fursky report shit? Like, I really want to know, because I really burned my fucking buns on multiple.
Because at the end of the day, and this might sound cold, I don't have an obligation to file a report. I'm just some asshole on the internet. I'm not a cop, I'm not a lawyer, I don't have an obligation. And I mean,
you made several promises in DMs to Fursky. The screenshot, I don't know if they've been leaked on the Kiwi Farms, or if they haven't, they will.
Pizza, what if you give your word? Hold on a minute, Pizza. I did file a report. I'm not going to say that I didn't, but at the same time, the reason I don't consider it worth discussing is because at the end of the day, no matter what I say, I don't have an obligation. It's not my fault.
Well, what if you give your word?
I will say
but you keep saying that you're doing this for the victim and that you care about the victims, but oh fuck the victim. If I'm not obligated when it's not convenient to me. Am I right?
I will say it's not a big pedophile, so therefore I'm not obligated to file a police report or like give any comfort to the victim. It's not about the views, I swear. It's all about the victims. It's not about the money, Fursky. I'm doing this because I caught you crying in a VC, and I was like, it's okay, little girl. Like, don't worry about it. Here, have a police report.
Quite
I'm
done?
probably not gonna file.
Are you quite done?
No, I'm not quite done because this whole entire situation has me really pissed.
Okay, that's amazing. I don't care.
Hold
anyway,
on, I do have
the reason.
So you really don't care about the victim?
No, Fursky, I don't give a fuck about you. I think you're a fucking bitch. I didn't fucking follow up because the way that I saw it is there were a lot of people still helping Fursky, but nobody helping the other victim. So I picked the other victim.
Well, shit. Guess like not all victims are created equal, guys.
Yeah, you're right. If somebody's still helping you and no one's helping the other person, I'm gonna fucking help the other person. Sorry, Fursky. At least you had a fucking safety net to fall back on.
Well, like, me and you, before all this drama, you were trying to be really fucking buddy-buddy with me. Like, you're fucking on the precinct and shit. You helped us with the Sappho shit. Like, shit, man. Like, I thought we was friends.
You thought wrong.
Let me speak.
Whereas Lio is now criticizing Fursky for her actions, attacking another individual within the general vicinity, particularly because of a video Peaches made where she briefly criticized the Fox Mafia for their inaction and downplaying of problematic behavior, trying to be civil with a zoophile. Mind you, while she was predominantly focusing on Coyote Lovely.
So I need to ask this because this keeps getting spammed out in the chat right now. Was this about you dating a 14-year-old?
Oh, right, yeah. No, we do some trolling on Twitter.
What do you mean you do some trolling?
Okay, so okay, yeah, so I've made a lot of very, very rough jokes and not so rough jokes, and I've went around and I've talked about how dating isn't a legal term, like it's not illegal to date anybody. So I am like, I do talk to somebody that happens to be younger than I am, but it's really super platonic, and I know it's still like, oh, you're still a predator, that's still predatory.
Well, I mean,
get it.
It's mostly at this point it's just your history.
Seriously, what is it with this trend of commentary morons interviewing predators as if they're interviewing their favorite celebrity? Like, it isn't a fucking tea party. Like, get rid of it. It's scum. You can be mean to it. Bully it. Have fun. Considering this thing is 23 years old, that's really gross. Just goes to show you how deranged she really is. Take note on how, although Cass and the others held back to say things to Sappho until later,
I don't want to sound like I'm being disrespectful to here.
Coyote, someone well known for being outwardly spoken, never says anything to Sappho about this.
Now, mind you, this was something Cass themselves had tried to debunk.
I almost blew my fucking head off.
Maybe you should have.
Which, out of context, seems to be a proper argument against Peaches' criticisms, but in context, conveniently ignores the 40-some-odd minutes of civility that they had towards Sappho beforehand. Gotta love cherry-picked evidence! So because Cass and friends caught a stray criticism lobbed at them, suddenly it's okay to wish for the most violently sexual behavior to befall amongst them, and we cannot say anything about that because they were a victim first. Fuck off. Lio is criticizing Fursky for victimizing Peaches. A victim can still do terrible things, and let's not pretend like they can't. This notion is harmful at best and is one of the reasons why people like Spoctor got a pass for so many years, but that's another video for another day. That one's still being scripted. We then followed that by 3 clips that Neorah felt aged like milk, and these clips are as such.
Bare minimum! You don't sit there and talk trash to somebody you tried to help, somebody you recognize as a victim, and you insult them and tell them you don't care. When I had to deal with outing Vita after what he did to Jazz, because that was the first victim we knew about, Jazz previously, matter of fact, earlier that year, months before, just a few, tried to get a legit hacker against my wife and I after we dealt with the Zoophile police. And you know what I did with Jazz when Jazz came to us and told us about what Vita did? I didn't say, well, you tried to harm my family, you can piss off. No, I said, all right, let's do this. How do we protect you and how can we help? And Jazz has not spoken to me after blaming me, well, except for one time when I asked her a question, after blaming me for a suicide attempt. And you know what? Even if she came to me today, and said, I need help, I'm dealing with a predator, regardless of what she's done to me, I would help her. The way you showed in that stream just tells us that whether or not you care about a victim is only predicated on whether or not they're nice to you.
Because the obligation I had to Fursky was already fulfilled. The way that I saw it, if the cops were going to handle it, they were gonna fucking handle it. If they weren't, they fucking weren't. And not only that, the fucking video that they gave me, there wasn't a lot I could do besides that. Because the fucking video contained admission from the person she had asked before me that that person went ahead and doxed the person that she was fucking going against. What am I supposed to do at that point with that being my only evidence?
What you do is you sit in a call and you walk her through how to make a police report to her local precinct. As I have done with multiple people. And not all of them do it. What's his name? Grizzly the Medic's probably still walking free because his victim refused to. That's what you do, Coyote. Because you know what? You'll travel with Monstrous all the way to Opal's house to pick her up and show her how to do a police report at a precinct. You already did it once. So that's what you do. If you're going to be in this field, you have to care about the people you're helping. And just as importantly, you have to operate ethically.
So, do these in some way invalidate the more current concerns Lio has about how Fursky treated Peaches? No, not at all. And if you think otherwise, you're a fucking moron. In the clips from the Coyote Lovely video, Coyote was being chewed out for treating a victim poorly as he should have been helping them, whereas Lio is now criticizing Fursky for becoming a victimizer to another. While it's not entirely disconnected from the situation surrounding Coyote and Sappho, there are enough degrees of separation here to justify the now criticism of the ex-victim, which is important to note because that contextualizes nuance. Something this document seems willfully dismissive outright about because it's better for their narrative, something that the rest of their thread victory laps about, which is hilariously misled. Neorah talks a bit about a false zoo allegation, and there's a whole segment about it in this document. First and foremost, I want to address another broken link that met me with an infinite recaptcha. By this point, this has happened a few times going through this document, but I cannot stress how problematic it is here that the constant broken links, alongside times where Neorah posts multiple links of the same thing, led me to believe that this tweet where Lio and Vash were having a back and forth throwing insults at each other is the piece of evidence Neorah wants me to look at, and I sure as hell hope it isn't, considering if you read the fucking tweet, Vash not only shot first by questioning why Lio couldn't have an actual kid, but also follows that up by no-youing Lio's allegation with one of his own. Something that Neorah conveniently leaves out of the allegations, by the way, which is certainly of note. Now, I'll be fair and say that Lio probably shouldn't just be casually throwing statements like that around. Like, I can agree. It's very Turkey Tom making constant pedophile jokes about Mr. Enter for anyone who remembers that drama, at least with what I can see. Though, when asking for clarification from Lio, there does seem to be extra context, though removed as it is now. That said, if I'm going to criticize Lio for this behavior, which I am, I'm also going to criticize Vash for the same thing, and it's arguably worse for this document for having that blatant double standard against one, but not as even so much acknowledging the other. Neorah also tries to debunk the zoophilia allegations against Cedric using a tweet that's both not archived and private as their evidence. Are you for fucking real? Is this all of your evidence here? I mean, I guess there's also the favorites having only 3 safe for work images in them, but one, this is going off of Cedric's word, and you know how I feel about circular reasoning, and it's worse here because Lio had proof that Cedric followed Zoophiles on Fur Affinity, particularly citing someone by the name of Arffra who posted Balto Pharaoh porn. You know, before those accounts were nuked. Oh, but he would have liked art from them, right? Not necessarily. Given the people he hangs around, he might avoid liking that art to avoid suspicion. I'm not saying he does, mind you, but more just giving a possible reason as to why he might not. Like, the critique at the end of the day is that he followed the person who made that feral porn, not that he himself liked it specifically. And while yes, that is a pretty lackluster allegation in a vacuum because there could be a multitude of reasons why someone follows an account like that, and especially so in predator hunting, I'd imagine, I also don't want to ignore the why it was brought up to begin with in Lio's video.
Even more interesting was when I had that call with Cass, Pizza, Keisuke, and Finnegan about coyotes following similar events back in February before the stream. I told Cass about what I found on Cedric. And for some reason, despite Coyote's follows being the only concrete proof of serious wrongdoing at the time, I was expected to deal with Coyote in the moment despite having a medical reason not to until the end of the week. But Cass? Nah, despite everything he said during his edgy anime speech on his Coyote video about accountability, he didn't say anything to Cedric until after his stream on Coyote, only said it privately, and kept Ceddy around afterwards anyways. Rules for me, but not for thee, right? Keep in mind, I'm applying their standards here.
Y'all brought up Coyote Lovely's follows as proof of wrongdoings first, and expected Lio to deal with that as soon as possible. But the minute it's turned back on one of you guys, and having you guys held to these same standards you set on Senate, suddenly it's, oh, but he didn't like any of the images, as if that was sayable about Coyote at the time. Mind you, I want to stress, at the time, we know now what we know now, but focally, your friends did the flimsy, faulty, and flippin' follows fallacy first, so frankly, forgo your feudal and effrontery fending off effects, you fatuous fucking freak. We then get another link to Neorah's thread. I've already covered that, it is literally the same thread, and we get a link to a video that no longer exists, so guess who had to find all of this on the fucking Wayback Machine? Now, this thing's a 3-hour video that supposedly is trying to expose specifically 2 of the Senate's moderators, Lumi and Monstrous. I don't want to go through the whole thing to find what's being talked about, but luckily for me, the creator of the document spotlighted the creator of the video's comment that timestamped the exact things that Neorah wants us to look at. So let's go through everything to see if there's anything worth substance. At roughly 51 minutes and 54 seconds, there's supposedly a statement that says, "They're not real, they're a cartoon," which is in reference to that aforementioned horse and dolphin image found within the Rancor pit.
Good question. Which Senate Tard forces rules violators to draw dolphin porn in current year? Question mark.
None. Like, again, like, the dolphin comic has not been brought up in fucking ages, man. It's gone. And it was only Baiji who did it. I mean, I did bet you that.
Why is he still a mod?
Because he stopped, and he's capable of fucking doing Discord shit.
Dude, why the fuck do you associate yourself with that? Like, legitimately, why?
Because he posted a comic that he thought was hilarious that didn't actually end up hurting any animals or humans.
Did you
God.
see it?
Okay. Hold on. Are we pulling the LollyCon argument? No. Oh, no. No. I mean, if you're going to do it's not real argument, it is the LollyCon argument. Say, I think the difference is one contains real humans and the other is just something someone was sent, like, what was the fucking specific story of it? Somebody sent it to someone back in Barrel days. Somebody sent it to someone who then sent it into Barrel. And Baiji didn't got it from that. Or they sent it to Baiji. It's one of those. And that is how he got it. And to him it was just, look at how fucking retarded this is. And that's what he posted. And then he stopped.
So a couple of things to touch upon here, and I think we should start with the elephant in the room. Cass asks why would the Senate keep Baiji, the dude that posted that image, around, and as a moderator. And the crux of the answer that they got was that the image did spark a discussion that ended with Baiji no longer posting the image within the chat, which corroborates with Lio's story. It was also worth noting by Lumi, the person who was answering the question, that it's not like any animals were actually harmed in the creation of that image, and that Baiji doesn't really find it sexual, but rather absurd in nature. Again, I want to clarify that I also don't really think the image is particularly appropriate, and while I admit that I too have my fair share of absurdist memes on my computer, I don't think any are that bad. However, one's personal morality about this image could contain a level of nuance that whataboutism only really attempts to deflect. Using the lolicon counter-retort given in this clip as an example, most lolicons rely on the fictionalization of the images to justify sexual attraction towards underage characters. Baiji presumably is sharing these images because they're silly, and without solid evidence supporting the contrary, I'm just gonna have to kinda go off of Lumi's word here. The intents of Baiji posting this image would then better contextualize why he has these images to begin with. Not for zoophilia reasons, but for shock reasons. Something that Cass's buddy Gilded Pooh should relate to. The only real difference is that Baiji is posting something fictional, whereas Pooh was, if you recall, posting real-life zoo porn. I'm just saying, there could be loads more nuance here than Neorah or really anyone in the Fox Mafia wants to look at, because if they do, then they'd have to question their own priorities. And the host of the call, Hopeless Satan as they go by in the Discord room, I presume this is North, does go on to say that they personally don't find Baiji particularly funny because he uses shock humor as a crutch, and that's fine. You're allowed to have that opinion, but understand that it's just your opinion. It's one I kind of agree with, mind you. I know you don't. You kind of admit to straight up virtue signaling because you find Baiji personally annoying, but Baiji obviously disagrees, and humor is subjective, so I don't really see how this is a real counterpoint against Senate, at least not one that doesn't also put Cass Warfox on shake your ground and paints everyone from the Fox Mafia side involved, including Neorah, with a pretty obvious double standard. At the hour and 19 minute and hour and 20 minute timestamps, we hear the following.
However, I would like to very politely say, you're gonna be the next one in the corner of my screenshots, so get ready for, like, fucking, what's the name? Plague to think that you're the spy.
Fucking Plague, dude.
That was so fucking stupid.
No, you don't get it. I had to tell Plague this 3 times now.
Dude, it's so fucking stupid. I remember, so the first person I did was, I kid you not, this may sound like bullshit, but I'm genuinely serious. It was a random grab. I was just like, let me just cover up the alt with, like, a random person. And that misfired. Huh?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, it was a random pick. And I'm sorry about how the person reacted.
There's something.
Yeah.
What happened? Chat.
Let me open it.
I will turn it into something before you guys are done with your conversation. I need to add on to something.
Sure.
Oh, right now? Okay. I did see a screenshot. I don't know where it is in the Fox Mafia, but I did see a screenshot of somebody in the chat admitting that the Discord invite that you sent it in announcements was an IP grabber.
It wasn't.
I know it wasn't. Because no, I knew it wasn't because that's not how Discord links work.
No, it's like, dude, I don't know your pronouns, I'm sorry. I hope you're okay.
It's any, I don't care.
Alright, yeah. Like, again, I'm that bitch who asks people pronouns before I fucking insult them.
We usually make fun of people like that here.
Okay, make fun of me then for being respectful. That's fine. Now, the second screenshot, I think... That's fair. The second screenshot, now that one is fucking hilarious, because I saw Cameron in the call and I was like, oh yeah, they defend Kumo! So I put Cameron in the corner.
Oh my god.
Holy shit, Cameron, you lost it!
I will admit, some people in the server are fucking retarded as shit.
Yes! I don't know why he's talking to me.
I can confirm.
This is nothing really worth of substance. It just sounds to me like Lumi was trolling someone by playing on their irrational paranoia. This doesn't really tell us anything useful, especially not when everyone else in this call says that they don't care themselves. Makes me wonder why North even brought this up to begin with in the comment. Like, what are you trying to say? What is your point here? That Lumi likes to do a little trolling? So does your group. But again, your group contains people who do it with real zoo porn. Then, at the 2 hours and 16 minute timestamp...
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but we're not going to fucking get rid of every person in the server that says mean words.
I hate to break it to you, but you get rid of them as soon as I put them in the corner of a screenshot.
And also, that's not even the point. Nobody gives a shit if people say mean words.
Like, oh my god. Okay, so I said mean words and you take it as sexual harassment?
You didn't say mean words. You were just a cunt. Not just a cunt.
A whole segment of this conversation. Oh, hold on. I just need to clarify. We already had like a huge, weird section of this conversation where a Peppa, how do you pronounce her, that VTuber's name, meme somehow made me look bad because of all the autistic screeching about shitposting. And like, it's hard to take that seriously because it's a relatively harmless little gag and meme. And this is getting conflated as everything's being like, oh, well, this makes you look bad, or this makes you look bad. This feels like grasping for straws.
Cass, I have no idea who you're referring to.
Well, I guess that's because you didn't pop in to see that one. This is like previous conversation just before you got here, I guess.
I made a small comment about the fact that shitpost made him look bad rather than good because the fact that person was screeching their head off and turned into a whole discussion.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not privy to everything that happens, so, yeah.
It's sort of general royal, just in the server conversation in general. I'm still trying to figure out, like, what the fuck is the point of it all is. It seems like it's been jumping constantly from everything. My thing is, there's been plenty of times where people will say some pretty fucked up shit. I don't think that means that having it in a server where people will agree or disagree with it or say something about it if they have a problem with it is necessarily endorsing it, at all. Unless it was a specific case where, let's say, okay, this is just a, example. Not a real thing. Let's say if Pizza decided to show his dick pic to a random person, or harass somebody for sexual stuff, right?
Would he be gone from the server for doing that? Yeah, he would get baby jailed and verbally beaten black and blue for that, because at that point that's not even the dumb flirtatious shit he does. That's going an extra mile. And at the same time, if he was being even more persistent on that, it would even be more beatings over it. So that's at least my thing on it. All this like, oh well, you said this about Peaches. Okay, plenty of people from both sides, my server, Senate, made plenty of jokes at my expense. I've had some very interesting stories of things happening to me involving Lio's barbed cock as well. I just laugh it off and move it on. No, here in this server, for example.
Okay.
I did,
But sorry, I'll let you finish.
yeah, as far as I see it, my way of dealing with that is I just laugh it off and move on. I can't take it seriously. I just can't.
Once again, I fail to see how this is a Senate issue. If these comments are said about Cass within his own chat, then it's not the Senate doing that. That is a point against the Fox Mafia. But even then, okay, cool. Cass doesn't seem to be affected by the comments made at his own expense. More power to him. However, making violently sexual comments at Peach's expense, much like Fursky did within her own video, to the point YouTube had to apparently age restrict it, does shine a much worse light on y'all in the Fox Mafia, because it shows your priorities aren't in line. Like, bros, if you can't understand the point here, let me break it down. The fact that you guys make such flippantly and egregiously sexual comments against someone who was a victim of sexual assault shows that y'all don't actually care about victims. It shows that you're willing to weaponize their trauma against them at the first sign of something that you don't like. Never mind if this could be a trigger for PTSD. Never mind how much of it may remind them of their traumatic event. As long as you guys can twist their pain in a way that gets them upset, you don't care. Which puts into question your motives of even getting into predator hunting to begin with, but I'll leave that question to someone with more of a horse in this race. Then, at 2 hours and 25 minutes...
Okay, well, fuck you, I didn't ask you, so you can be quiet, I can just mute you, either one.
Okay.
So, anyway, Cass, do you find... Actually, no. Who's the one that mentioned that they were an SA survivor?
Me.
What was your name?
North. Oh, North.
North. Okay, North. Thank you for telling me that's how you say that. So, North. I understand that you're an SA survivor. In fact, there are plenty of people, I'm sure, between both servers who are. I'm going to point out to you that while the server may be a shitposting server, and in some cases it is as well, do you think, and tell me if, give me your honest opinion, do you think that making jokes like that about people, do you honestly think that making those jokes is what's going to help get you through the day when you're having flashbacks like that? Like, people you don't even know.
Well, here's the thing. Different SA experiences very different material things that people can't really comprehend in the first place. Like, every SA victim has a different experience of some sort of
every trauma victim does, yeah.
Of trauma and all that. Like, for example, I know a certain friend of mine who was also SA'd. They were in the process of having to deal with listening to music. While I, on the other hand, I technically just try to ignore it and laugh it off. I know it kind of sounds fucked, but it's something that my mind has a completely different structure to how I think of certain ways. And not only that, it's something that most of the SA victims technically deal with once it comes to having to deal with trauma that has to deal with certain aspects of what happened to them. And that's something...
Sure.
Yeah, and that is something that we can't really blame them for, especially when they have the absolute right to joke about it in their own circle.
And you know what? This is fair. However, as North said, every victim is different, and so to just assume that everyone would be okay with these types of comments is fucking inane and irresponsible at best. Once again, this doesn't really do much against the Senate as a group, and Neorah using it as evidence against it really shows how little of a fuck they put into this document. I swear to God. And finally, the timestamp at 2 hours and 32 minutes.
And to put a pause on that and address North really quick, North, I understand that every victim has the right to cope. However, I shouldn't say they have every right, but victims will cope how they need to cope in order to deal with the trauma and the abuse. And I understand that, given the field that I work in, and the field that I have worked in for a number of years in my educational background. I'm going to push back on what you're claiming, though, because I can assure you that not every coping mechanism is a good coping mechanism for every victim. And I'm not saying that every coping mechanism is necessarily invalid, but certain coping mechanisms will result in exacerbating trauma.
My video was a cope.
Nobody asked you, Fursky. Anyway, and it will result in creating more problems down the line.
I can't focus if anybody's speaking, I'm sorry.
Alright, well, see, I'll answer it like this. Frisky, Nerf, do you even disagree with some of the edgy humor in here, yes or no?
Honestly, most of the time I don't, because honestly, like, it always could be worse, but most of the gratuitous, like, shit in here, like, it doesn't affect me, because I grew up with this culture. I'm honestly just gonna say it, I'm not, whatever color pilled is, like, pilled, whatever, nowadays, like, I'm honestly, I'm a fucking ally, but honestly, like, you know, fucking, I let people, they shit in their bed and they lay on it. I don't tell them to roll around in their own shit, like, you know, I don't throw them out of their own bed, I let them bury themselves.
Alright, how about you, Vash? I know what you've been through, we'll get into it, but what do you think?
I believe that And yes, Monstrous, if you didn't get to him, I was also a victim at one point.
Sure.
I believe that anyone should be able to have the right to express themselves. Now, how they express themselves as an individual, yes, they should be held accountable individually.
Sure.
Now,
To an extent,
with
yes.
Persky, like, am I going to giggle at that a little bit? Yeah, a little, because, you know, that's kind of how I try and deal with that myself, because the thing that I went through was rather dark.
Sure. But that's not. But to push back
And
on that.
I'm not excusing Persky.
Mhm.
Like, I let her speak for herself. But for me personally, the humor of this server is for this server.
But this wasn't posted in the server. This was posted on Persky's YouTube, and
Yeah,
so this isn't even in the
part-
confines.
That
So this-
part, for that humor, I believe that, you know, that does she have the right to post it? Yeah. Is she free to express it? Yes, just as you are free to react to it.
So, but to go back to what North is saying, North agreed that, or North stated that how one expresses that trauma within the confines of the people around them is agreeable. This was not within the confines of the server. This wasn't in the confines of a group of friends. This was out in the public, knowing that
do
there are
agree.
consequences for one's own actions.
I do agree with you there, but what I'm saying is she has the freedom to express it, just as we have the freedom to react to it.
So I want to point out that the timestamp has North calling this moment strawmanning my sexual assault, which isn't what's happening. First and foremost, it starts with Monstrous saying that people can cope however they want, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy to do so. To which Cass deflects and it gets off topic by asking Fursky and Vash if they're personally okay with the humor within the Fox Mafia, and by the time we get to Vash, he steers the conversation towards freedom of speech and expression and the right to not be held accountable for association, saying that Fursky should have been free to publicly say what she did about Hopeless Peaches, which also isn't the point, but Monstrous leans into it by explaining that this sexual harassment was done publicly, which Vash doesn't seem to understand is a problem. Look, I get the idea of being free speech absolutionists here, but if that sexual harassment was more offline, would y'all be okay with that because they have a right to do it? If someone was in your face saying to you what Fursky said to Peaches, should they not be punished for it? As victims yourselves, you should probably sit on that for a bit. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Now, Neorah, if I'm to go back to them, says that this call in some way shows problems with the mods of Senate. But barring Baiji, who isn't even in the call, and maybe Lumi's trolling if I'm to stretch, nothing is really proven, at least within the timestamps culled to from North's comment section. And if we were to call back towards the two that you could make some sort of point about, it comes off as rather hypocritical to hold the two from Senate to a standard that you're not willing to extend to the Fox Mafia, which is even worse for you as someone who is trying to call out hypocrisy from within Senate, because that becomes double the hypocrisy on your end. But let's leave this off to the side. After all, there is so much more to the story that Neorah wants us to see, specifically in calling Lumi out for fabricating screenshots to spread misinformation. But outside of changing the name in the Discord user slot, is there any proof that Lumi fabricates things that were said within these alluded screenshots? Because this isn't really much different than, like, censoring a name. It's just doing it in a way that gets y'all on your toes, which, by the sounds of it, seemed to work pretty well. Also, where is Lumi spreading this misinformation to? Senate? Because I'm pretty sure Lumi would have been honest with people within there had they asked Lumi where he got the screenshots from. By the way, we don't even see what these supposedly faked screenshots are. We're not told what the information within them was. We're only told that Lumi fabricates screenshots at all, which is obviously an attempt to draw attention away from the Fox Mafia's misdoings and deflect it onto someone else to invalidate or dismiss any criticism of the Fox Mafia. It's rather painful attempt too, if you ask me, because it's even within their own screenshot, Lumi just admits to changing the name of the user box and admits it to the Fox Mafia, so he's not even trying to hide it. I don't know, man. If you were trying to call Lumi duplicitous in some way, shape, or form, you did a pretty bad job at it, is all I'm saying. This next bit is kind of where things become a commentary. Like, I know that I said that I wouldn't make this a whole line-by-line debunk, despite how I've kind of been doing so all video, but Neorah, actually turns this into a commentary via Google Doc from page 15 to page 24. And since Neorah thinks these calls that they link for the commentary are super damning, I'm gonna have to go over this point for point. because if I don't, and something is actually amiss with Lio or the Senate, then it's probably very important to see it, hear it, and address it if need be. Luckily, response commentaries are my wheelhouse, and I've already addressed a lot of what Neorah has given us thus far, so if you were looking for my usual video style, well, here you go.
Lio was acting like he never knew anything of Coyote's intentions about his OP or the flirtation to a zoophile at the time of the call late night of February 18, 2023 to early morning on February 19, 2023, a week before the Yote stream. Lio knew everything over a month in advance around January 5 according to the call between Lio and Gilded POO on March 3, 2023. In conclusion, Lio flat out lied about his and Senate's knowing of Coyote Lovely's intentions. According to this very call, this includes along with the Senate. They knew long before Ka and others even said anything.
So this opening bit of context has no timestamp to it. Thankfully, it's in the opening minutes, so I don't really have to look too hard.
You know, this is just a whole fucking mess.
It really is a big mess. I'm sorry that you actually had to find it. This is new to me, so I'm gonna go look on Furfinity and just see what I can find.
I can't post the image on YouTube. Whoa, there's someone in KCA, all these names. There's a request that the Discord block any messages. Our mostly accurate bots seem to be explicit, so your message has not been sent, so I can't even post the information on SETI. But I actually had a talk with Coyote before I found out about the art accounts being followed, which again is something that does need to be addressed, but there's some sort of deniability one can have there. The Coyote, the way he's acted for the past year is not okay. I think that he's burnt out. Not to give excuses, but he has been making bad decisions. He's not going to be doing predator hunting.
Burnt out is an understatement whenever you decide to literally flirt and fraternize with the enemy.
Yeah, his excuse for that, his reasoning, is that he did it to get information on Sappho so a warrant could be executed. Now,
May I ask you a question?
Well, wait. Let me ask, because you know that I'm at work currently, so I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for this truck to pass.
Sure.
Okay. So that part, like for me, all right, like if I were in his shoes, and let's say that I had to do an operation to get someone to trust me, where I had to be flirtatious with. I mean, I'm not going to fucking do it because it's fucking bad optics. But let's say it. So I'll go ahead and ask a few questions that would be included to how I would do it. Did anyone in Senate? Was anyone in Senate noting his off? Was anybody at least there?
I did not even get told about it until after he'd already started doing it. I didn't even know about it until he told me about the SETI group chat where he thought Senate was like brewing people to be trans. And
okay,
that's stupid. He should have done it to begin with.
Now, yes, this does say that there was a point where Lio knew about Coyote's escapades, but it doesn't outright specify the time at which he knew. It just was that it was sometime after Cedric made a whole conspiracy about the Senate being a trans grooming ground. Neorah goes on to call back to the call between Lio and Gilded Poo, but if you recall, Lio there clears up throughout that call that Coyote and his affiliates had actively lied about, well, frankly, a lot of things, but specifically at just how involved Coyote was with hypnotist Sappho. Lio found out he was being lied to. Lio wanted to get his facts right. Lio, in his own words, wanted to make sure all of the boxes were checked before anything actually happened. Lio did not want to rush into things, which makes sense when everyone around your friend is fucking sketchy as hell. This extra context doesn't change anything anyway, because he's not acting like he didn't know anything until February. He flat out said that he found out sometime before this call took place, but he didn't know everything, and to say that he did when he was being lied to left and right is flat out intellectual dishonesty at best and victim blaming at worst. He's not lying about how much he knew at the time, he just found out more information as things were progressing.
Additionally, Lio has known for a while of Coyote Lovely's connection to Zergala, as shown in the full Zergala call posted by Gilded POO, credited to him for posting it. They knew everything and never did jack until everything blew up and did damage control. As a result of this, they did a smear campaign against Ka and his own community because they are running from the truth. So they made themselves look a million times worse due to damage control and optics.
This, also as addressed before, is fucking stupid, because at the time of that call, Lio didn't know Zercarlo was actually a zoophile. The most information we got out of the call that Gilded Poo leaked was that Zercarlo was detached from reality and way in over their head. So again, to say that Lio and Senate knew everything from the beginning is a malicious twisting of events used to paint a narrative that's factually untrue. If this is how you want to start us off within this segment of the document, I'm going to expect to get very mad by the time we're done here.
At a timestamp of 1645, Lio has stated a completely different story by saying they had a staff meeting, but around 3 minutes into the call above where he stated that he and the members of staff never knew anything. So he's contradicting his own story about him and the staff's knowledge of the information of Coyote Lovely.
Now, it's important to know what the fuck a contradiction is, because apparently Neorah doesn't. It's not a contradiction for Lio to say that he knew something was going on, but not to know the details of the thing. It's why, in the timestamp you provided even, that he would clarify that he is trying to gather information so Coyote can't lie to him about everything.
Sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
And before this call got started, I want you to be aware we were having a staff discussion about some of the nonsense going on with Coyote. So I'm going to have to confront Coyote as soon as we have every single bit of information we need and all the ducks in a row, because I don't want Coyote to, for lack of a better word, because I don't know any other that could fit here, to have any option of possibly lying to me about anything, because this is ridiculous. I know Coyote plans on stopping predator hunting, and he needs to.
Because at about 3 minutes into the call, Lio says the following.
No, and that's part of the discussion I had with Coyote. I'm like, Coyote, I know why you're telling me you did it, because a warrant was going to be executed, and they needed to get info on Sappho, and you thought it would be the best way for this victim, because it was a victim, to get justice. I get that, but it was impulsive. It dragged your name through the mud, and it was stupid. Why did? And part of me feels like sometimes Coyote does that type of stuff without telling me, because he knows I'm going to tell him it's a bad idea. And here's the truth of the matter that a lot of people don't seem to understand, and I get why, because Coyote and I are pretty friendly. I don't know everything Coyote's up to. I genuinely don't. Even when Pizza came to me about something, I said, well, I don't think Coyote talks to that person very often. Finds out Coyote did talk to that person very often, and a lot. Not Sappho or anything like that. Just in general. Like, I don't know Coyote as well as people probably assume I do. He shared some servers with me. He's one of the mods in Senate, but we don't even talk on a daily basis.
Clarifying that despite the popular belief, he doesn't know everything about Coyote, and he shouldn't have to, even if they are friends. But that's why Lio specifically took so long, ultimately. He didn't have all the answers, he didn't have all the information, and I don't think I can clarify that enough.
And here's the irony here, just a real quick segue. That's actually what I was going to talk to you about, Cass, because it's something I've been needing to step away from for a while. So I was going to ask if you'd be fine with me passing on anybody who brings me a case to you, because it's literally destroying my health. That's what I needed to talk to you about initially.
That's fine. I would say that if there's any way I can get more support for the channel, that's fine. It's whatever. I don't care. I'm a stubborn bastard. I'll keep up with what I want to. That's fine.
Lio has stated in this call that he apparently has health problems. But when Lio made a video on Ka and community, he has stated that it's taking a toll on his mental health. Lio is basically using the victimization card to have others go less on him when he is outed for his bullshit, which is it.
Oh, you're like stupid. This is some Obama said he's 62, but last year he said he's 61. That's mighty sus levels of conspiracy bullshit. It can be both, dumbass. I have current physical and mental health problems. In fact, the two very often coincide. Are you really so fucking dense that you need even this minute fucking detail spelled out for you as if you were 5? Good God.
Right now, the pattern of behavior is obviously an issue that 100% needs to be addressed, especially combined with the I'm affected by the people I surround myself with, which to a point, in some ways, just about everybody is, but your core values shouldn't shift. If you're not the type of person who says slurs, being around a bunch of people who do shouldn't affect that.
Lio has stated that people who always use slurs and edgy humor at the time of this recording is no issue in terms of investigation. But when they slandered Ka and his community/victim members, it becomes a problem.
That is not what Lio said? I'm gonna go with that is not what Lio said for 500, Alex. At least not at the timestamp written. Because here, Lio is talking about the importance of keeping your morals aligned with your own actions. He does bring up people who use slurs generally, but it's in the light of not allowing your peers to change your core values. If you personally do not use slurs, then the fact that you do hang around people who do use slurs shouldn't therein make you more okay with doing so. A lesson that I frankly needed to learn in 2016. This does not mean that Lio himself didn't personally take issues with Cass's server. It's just the general advice to keep your morals. Doesn't shock me too much that you have a hard time grasping that notion.
He has no right to just complain about having to be transparent when that's literally his job description. He has to be transparent.
Yep. That's one reason why I am. That, and like, I have nothing to lose by being transparent, because I don't do anything to cause that many issues other than pissing off morons on the internet. So
Lio has stated that he is always transparent, but throughout any situation never has been inconsistent. Yet recently states baseless accusations to Ka community members, shows out of context evidence, and does this smear campaign on Ka whole community including Ka himself. So what does this show of LioConvoy in the Senate?
Citation needed, and if it's anything in relation to the evidence that I've already covered in this video, I don't care. None of what you've shown us thus far is proof of inconsistency on Lio's end, and if you expect me to believe otherwise, you're going to need to bring much harder evidence.
There's one reason why when, I can't remember who it was, that person, like, threw a fit about the confessions in Senate and leaked it to Senate. I'm like, yeah, they're going to throw you in jail cell. You leaked something from a server that's not public. What were you expecting? And why are you twisted up about it anyways, right? Despite what people may assume, I don't hate your server. If I did, I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't hop in calls and see how people are doing. I wouldn't do any of that. I don't hate anybody there. Even the morons that do nothing but freak out about me and change my name to pedophile and other things that frankly shouldn't happen, but it's the culture of the server and I'm not going to change it. I'm not even mad at them. When it comes to people having like personal disputes, that's between you guys. You're adults. You should be able to handle it on your own. I'm not here to champion for Coyote, and I never would have to begin with. So I just want to make that very clear, because apparently people didn't pick up on it, and I get why. When you think that there might be dividing lines of combat drawn in the sand, you're going to assume that. But no, there's no stupid nonsense of Senate versus Cass's server. Frankly, most people in Senate just don't care. If Coyote has an issue with your server, Coyote has an issue with your server. It doesn't mean I'm going to. It doesn't mean I'm going to have an issue with the people.
Lio has stated that he has no issue on the environment of Ka Discord server according to this recording, but when the slandering of Ka and his community happens, apparently it is now an issue on screen.
Again, this is actually false when you listen to what Lio actually says. Well, sure, he does state that he doesn't hate the server here. He does bring up how people in there label him a pedophile, and mentions how things like that shouldn't be done, meaning there are other criticisms Lio has of the actions of the individuals within there, but that it doesn't reflect the server as a whole. Now, given the criticisms of Cass Warfox beyond this point, it's safe to assume that either Lio still only has criticisms of individuals, which, yeah, is in part how it actually is when you break it down, or, another reasonable assumption to be made here, he found shit to complain about. And, given the timeline I outlined earlier in regards to Gilded Poo specifically, and when Lio learned about his bestiality porn, I guess it's a little of column A and a little of column B myself. This call was from February after all, and Lio was still dealing with Coyote Lovely's bullshit. He only started publicly criticizing Cass Warfox and the Fox Mafia in what, April? 2 months after the fact? Gee, I wonder what could have changed there. I guess Lio is just simply inconsistent. Is sarcasm not strong enough for you?
I'm sorry, I just have to remember why fucking retarded people like the Quartering were crying over fucking Last Jedi.
So, whenever you guys, Cass specifically, I think, are able to pass me some recording between Zerkalo and Coyote, and I really hope, I'm sure it's not, but I really hope it's not the AI deepfake that got put in confessions, because I had nightmares after that.
Wait, what?
Yeah, somebody did an AI generated conversation between Coyote and Zerkalo about booty butter, and I really could have gone the rest of my life without hearing it.
I mean, yeah, welcome to my server. We love shit posting, and that's apparently where it goes. Holy shit.
Lio has stated an AI confession fanfic that was shown in Ka server. Ka confirmed it was a form of shit posting, and Lio did not care nor have not addressed that it is a massive issue. Alongside that, he did cringe about it, but it was not an issue of Ka being a pedo hunter. Same goes for Senate for not saying anything either. But now with this drama, it is with the AI generated fanfic shit posting from the confession bot, it's an issue for him and the Senate entirely with the Peaches/Lio Daddy fanfics. Yet they do the same thing but less of the fanfic, but it does fall under that field as shown above.
Oh, Lio didn't have an issue with the AI fanfics when it was people who were in on the joke, but suddenly when it's his found family and about him and someone who he considers a daughter, someone who's a sexual abuse victim, friendly reminder, it's suddenly a problem? Oh my god, how inconsistent! Neorah, do you just not understand anything? Yeah, people tend to be more okay with memes at their own expense when they're in on the joke. If Peaches and Lio were not in on the joke, which obviously I don't see why they would when their relationship to each other is familial, Peaches sees Lio like a father-friendly reminder, then it'd be no wonder why these two might take a bit more issue with the meme at their expense. This really shouldn't be rocket science. All it takes is a bit of understanding to nuance, context, and consent. That last one is really important because it's something I'd expect a predator hunter to understand.
It just, I don't know, it's like throwing everything away. It's fucking retarded.
Yeah.
Certainly sounds like it. But unfortunately, I can't stay too much longer. I'm supposed to be talking with somebody else here in a minute, but there's something I do need to bring up that is tangentially related to all of this, and I brought it up a little bit, I think, before Cass was able to listen and Pizza wasn't here. So, because of the art accounts that Coyote has followed, which I had to confront him about, and we'll see what he responds to about that, I decided to do a little bit of digging, and I did some digging on SETI. I like SETI. I like, I don't, Pizza wasn't here, but I like SETI. SETI may have said some really dumb things about me. SETI clearly struggles with, like, being accepted. Usually, I can give some sort of leeway. Sometimes you like an artist and you follow them, and, you know, you like them for a specific piece of art and nothing else. There's at least one. There's some that people might question, but one that unquestionably has a bunch of zoophile art on it that SETI follows on Fur Affinity.
Right,
And I shared it with Kisuke, and it's not pleasant, and I hated the fact that I found it.
Okay.
We will talk with him. Again, when it comes to the thread on Kiwi, which apparently there is one, it sounds like we all know about this one. I don't know. It's fucking retarded, and with all the stuff that he's been doing lately, it was an inevitability that this was gonna fucking happen.
Well, the
Or
thread on
it's off, and they're finished with them.
thread on Coyote, like, that was an inevitability because of the spear Coyote's in. There's a thread on me too, but it's like super retarded and nobody cares. With Coyote, like, there's actual information there that I did not know, and that I'm not happy to find out about. I needed to. I need to be able to bring it to Coyote, because if Coyote is following these art accounts, if Coyote is making these type of decisions, I certainly can't have him on staff. So I expect that, but at the same time, if I find out, like, these art accounts that have, like, baby fur or zoophile or anything like that, if there's any validity to them outside of him liking one piece of art and following them for that and not knowing, because everybody at some point's probably done that. If I find out there's validity there, Coyote has to be gone. He has to be gone from my life. He has to be gone from my server. I can tell you right now, due to all of this, he's definitely... Well, I can't say definitely, because there is, I can't say definitely, despite what people think. Senate in its higher echelon for decisions that operate via vote, we're going to have a vote on removing him, and I'm going to strongly vote that we remove him from moderation, because we can't have somebody who does stuff like that running the server. I'm sorry, but we can't.
LIO talking about allegations of SETI in terms of liking an artist with the SFW filter on. LIO sees the heinous art, even states that he will not have Coyote to be in staff if LIO finds out about Coyote favoriting heinous art and following artists that has heinous works, but funny enough, during the Coyote Lovely stream, he stated about Coyote following heinous artists on DeviantArt and did not want to hold anything against Yote, as he has stated himself it is not an issue at all because Coyote did not know. So by that logic, SETI in terms of these allegations, should not have any sort of issue about SETI unknowing following inferior artists since he had no idea of that artist's heinous art pieces. To add on to that, he has 2 comic book strips that are not feral nor zoophilia. If SETI would have liked feral porn, why are they not in his favorites on Fur Affinity then? Simple, because he didn't know. In meaning, SETI never turns on the NSFW filter, unable to see the NSFW art, which never ever happened. LIO even stated himself about Yote, if I see that he likes and follows the artists in question I will immediately remove him at the time of this call. LIO didn't apply that to SETI with the allegations and never bothered to show the favorites to further prove his claims. This shows the flaws that LIO has, the double standards that is applied on Ka community.
So, let me get this straight. Because Lio did a thing giving Coyote some benefit of doubt on a live stream addressing Coyote, Cedric shouldn't be held to the same standards that were set to Coyote initially. Like, that seems a little backwards. If Coyote was the initial person having the claims made against them for following problematic artists on Fur Affinity, then it should be on the Fox Mafia to find out if any of their own are doing the same. It's not double standards against the Senate because Lio would probably have been willing to give Cedric more leeway about that too, but again, calling back to the video Lio made on the Fox Mafia, it was only brought up because that was a criticism against Coyote first. That's literally part of the reason this call even seemed to happen, by the way.
Since we're on the topic, I just wanted to ask. So, in my, I just want to know, because you want to leave at this point. You got shit to do. Understandable. I just want to know like your exact intent with going at Coyote with this. This is just trying to get him the answer, or do you fully intend just to throw him the curve because it seems like he's kind of made up his mind. But,
I want to get full answers from him. I want the truth from him.
Mhm.
I want him to be accountable for the nonsense he's done, even if it's so much as just telling him, "Hey, you need to actually address this garbage. You need to actually show your audience, because that's part of transparency. You need to show your audience you screwed up here, because you did. There's nobody here that's going to say Coyote didn't screw up. Even Coyote's told me he screwed up. But when you screw up, because again, Cass, you remember like 2.5 years ago at this point or so, when I had to disconnect from Anthony when it came to predator hunting?
Yeah.
I did an entire stream telling people what happened and what my involvement in that was. And it's still up. You can still see I was stupid, and I took somebody's word for it without double checking it like I usually do because I trusted him for that long. We'd worked for a while, and he got stupid. So yeah, I expect far minimum for Coyote to do the same level of due diligence there.
Lio states that after this call and his meeting with someone else he is going to tell Coyote to immediately address the allegations before the stream from Ka on the following Saturday. But never did until after the Yote stream and the smoking gun was Yote calling Fursky a bitch, even though Monstrous called Fursky a cunt in the Lumi/Monday call above, and Lio did not do anything of anyone's knowledge but okay double standards, and that was apparently enough for him to now tell Coyote what he did was wrong. Seems like damage control to me. Funny thing is that they went on FNGR aka Anthony for much less immediately. But to confront Coyote Lovely? He waited until it blew up in their faces during Ka's Coyote stream. Lio only cared about how Coyote's reputation and actions during the live stream could hurt their reputation, they gave less of a shit of what Coyote did. They only cared about how Coyote was damaging the optics of how they look.
I think I really need to hammer in how much Neorah loves to bank on this particular tactic way too hard. So, I don't know if you've noticed yet, Neorah will constantly come back to this singular point of just how long it took for Lio to address Coyote, or how Lio did nothing to people for doing things in conversations he was not a part of, or how everything is damage control because of how Lio made it a public thing only when the heat was on, or some bullshit like that. Not only is this the least charitable reading into Lio's actions and beliefs, but it frustratingly dismisses any and all context and nuance from the equation. Like, Lio might not have known of Lumi or Monstrous calling Fursky a cunt, though Fursky said a lot worse to people for a lot less, so frankly, if this is a criticism of Lio, it goes double for you and Fursky. But either way, Lio isn't omniscient, he doesn't know everything, and so in situations like that, to assume that he's just going to magically know every little detail about what is said to whom and when is frankly moronic. This extends to the stuff regarding Coyote because, as mentioned before, Lio was too busy deciphering the true and false statements that were given to him and wanted to make sure he had everything at the ready before addressing Coyote directly. It's not because of the optics, it's not because of damage control, and if it is, please, for the love of God, actually prove it instead of hinging on conspiratorial nonsense that is easily dismissible by the information you're using as your evidence. Either that or fuck off and make everyone's life easier.
7, 8. All right, I'm going to go ahead and throw my mobile alt in here, just in case. Because I actually don't have this in Cass's server. I didn't see the point. But I have a mobile alt that I use when I'm at work because I can't, for some reason, get my main to log into Discord. So that way I can keep track of things in case something happens when I'm at work. And I'm probably going to ask you guys to structure some things you want me to ask Coyote because I don't want to miss anything. I do not want to come back here with the call because I'm going to record it and you guys ask me, why didn't you ask this or that? I want to be thorough. Okay?
Of course.
Right.
We understand.
Lio has stated that he wants Ka and the others to give him the evidence provided, to be thorough, so that he can confront Coyote immediately before the stream. Funny thing is, a Coyote Lovely thread was made in the Prospering Grounds on the Kiwi Farms. It had already shown the evidence on the thread long before it actually became public, and Lio waited on it until after the Coyote stream on February 25th.
Conveniently, one of the timestamps that Neorah skips over is at the 1 hour and 2 minute mark, where we hear Lio clarify what he actually wants as evidence is what Cass himself had brought up to Lio directly, not what is on the farms. What he's asking this call to bring him is questions. Questions to ask Coyote during a call Lio was planning on the two having. This also, and I'm getting real fucking tired of this from Neorah's end, doesn't specify a time. Once again, this is you banking on when something is done when it's never properly established to be the case. Lio doesn't state that he's doing this before any live stream, he just says that there's going to be a call. I think the thing that bugs me more about Neorah constantly doing this shit, you know, more than just the radical and faceless assumptions that read into the worst case into actions and knowledge, but just remembering that there are times where Neorah omits when something is done and how the flow of time actually works when it's convenient. If a time is set or a time is knowable, such as when a video is uploaded or a statement is made, then yeah, bring it up there. It's really important to set a coherent timeline of events when you can. But Neorah is so scattershot about it throughout this document that's really hard to follow along to sometimes. Neorah will say a time is established but not show it in their evidence. Neorah will make assumptions against when someone did what, and it becomes a clusterfuck to actually follow along to as an outsider. It's just not a good way to tell this story if you want us, as the third parties that you want to read this document, to believe that Lio is this two-faced, duplicitous, Machiavellian supervillain pulling the strings to slander someone who he otherwise seemed to have a fairly good blood with during the Coyote shit, which we'll come back to later.
This was at the time the thread was in the Prospering Grounds and at the time when the thread became public. So Lio saw the evidence and didn't act immediately. He waited because he knew.
He waited because he knew. It's just now sinking in that this whole allegation from the get-go doesn't make any sense. Like, I understood the notion that maybe Lio was playing damage control and staying quiet to save his own ass, but why would he persist to do so while everyone else was telling him to go at Coyote? Wouldn't that go against the whole notion of playing damage control to begin with? Please make it make sense. When did he even get called out for this shit publicly again? Like, Neorah keeps making it sound like Lio started, quote, slandering the Fox Mafia out of retaliation to a video made about him and the Senate. But like, I couldn't find anything. And again, this document doesn't really establish a coherent or accurate timeline. There's another big thing that it fails at establishing, but we'll come back to that.
Anyways, you need to go, I need to go, so...
I'm going to go ahead and bail. I have zero hard feelings for any of you, except for the person who told me to build Lego. Kisuke, I'm coming for your booty. I build Gundams. I'm a man.
Oh, shut
I'll
the fuck up, bitch.
You guys have a good night. I'll catch you guys
later. You too. All right, man.
Lio has stated before he departed from call that he never has any form of issues or hard feelings with anyone, never once addressed any issues until the slandering of Ka and his community. In meaning he had zero issues to begin with until Ka called them out and Ka stated he is going to question everyone, meaning Lio and Senate. This is nothing more than retaliatory action by Lio and his community. It's all doing this BS for literally nothing.
I want to tie you to a tetherball pole and play a few rounds on your face. If you're too stupid to realize that people's opinions can be shifted after a situation occurs, then you're frankly too stupid to be making this document to begin with. Oh, and hey, Cass, I might not know you all that well, but maybe don't back this horse, because doing so makes you look like an idiot too. Just saying, homie. All of this commentary was followed by a Google Drive link that was supposed to lead us to part 2 of this commentary, but the Google Drive link, when I clicked it, doesn't work. Okay, hold on, so... This thing with the Google Drive link that was supposed to lead to the second part of the commentary, right? I just realized that I'm not even looking at my copy of the script. I'm looking at the actual, like, thing. I'd have to request edit access for this. So this is the actual thing. And when you click this link, I want to make sure that you guys know, when you click this link right here that is supposed to go to this Google Drive, It does not exist. So the evidence that Neorah is trying to give us, even in the original document that is getting spread around by people like Cass Warfox, doesn't fucking work anymore. So anyone who came at this late, like myself, is not going to know what the fuck you're trying to lead on when you talk about all this other stuff. Like, this is a whole, what, fucking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages that I can just skip over because you didn't fucking link this shit properly. You didn't go back and fix the link in the actual document. This, again, is not the copy of the document. This is the actual fucking thing. Homie! This is the dumbest fucking document I think I've ever read. Which Lio warned me about, but I didn't believe him. Christ. Alright, so we can skip basically the entirety of part 2 to this commentary and move on over to part 3 over on page 23. This one also leads us to a Google Drive link, at least this one works, so we can continue this shit fast. It's worth noting that during these 3 bullet points, and no, I'm not kidding, after all of this we're really ending on a low note, Neorah makes an allegation against the Senate that says throughout the entire 56 minutes of this voice call, the Senate displays the same style of humor that Cass Warfox and the Fox Mafia portray within their own chat. I disagree. I think it really begins around the 27-minute mark, but, and as much as I hate to say it, Neorah does kinda have a point. It's not the point they think they're making, but they are correct in that the Senate also seems to have an edgier sense of humor and is just willing to very flippantly make jokes that are maybe not the best. So congrats! There is one valid point against the first half of this document. They sure do have that sense of humor. Now let's talk about where Neorah's point falls apart. The issue that Lio took with the Fox Mafia wasn't the mere shitposting. I'm getting very tired of reading this particular allegation because it's fucking stupid. The list of things that Lio critiqued the Fox Mafia for, in order, was Cass Warfox associating with people that are detrimental to predator hunting, which is something that this whole situation was predicated around with Lio and Senate, specifically outlining those who Cass had chosen as his moderation team for the Fox Mafia. Gilded Pooh making flippant and conspiratorial pedophile allegations against Coyote and Lio. Lio specifically makes note of just how serious some of these claims are and how Pooh almost dips into straight-up slander. Pooh spamming scat and zoo porn into Discord servers with minors. Pooh owning and distributing bestiality porn. I don't think we can stress that one enough. Dude owns real zoo porn and we're supposed to believe that he's a good choice for a predator hunter server that focuses on busting pedo and zoophiles. The server members using an anonymous confessions bot to make more rampant and actually slanderous claims against Lio and his found family. Cass doing nothing about this, by the way. Lio specifically makes note of just how this predator hunter server is making light of grooming by making it into a joke. This comes back later, by the way. The server as a whole being totally okay with Pooh's zoo porn, by the way, because they, quote, own a drawing, not realizing the difference in severity or actions taken when those images, or in Pooh's case, video, was brought to light. Cedric accusing the Senate of grooming members into being trans, which was notable because he cowarded when Lio wanted to talk to him, which in Lio's mind says that there is some cowardice behind the Fox Mafia. Cedric following people who draw feral porn on Fur Affinity and Cass doing nothing about that despite expecting Lio to do the same with Coyote for the same reason. The server members openly expressing that they're okay with feral and zoo porn. Cass Warfox never looking into claims that are given to him, and in fact actively goes out of his way to avoid doing so, which goes against the very nature of predator hunting. Cass Warfox making claims of slander against the Senate for a brief bit of criticism in Hopeless Peaches' video on Coyote. Cass and the Fox Mafia not doing their due diligence in interviewing hypnotist Sappho, treating it more as an interview with a celebrity than one with a notorious and open predator. Lio makes note of how this allowed Sappho to humanize herself to their audience, and how being polite with predators is only really something to do when they're not already initially open about it. Cass conceding to Sappho again and again. Pooh not actually caring about victims while partaking in predator hunting, and Cass just being openly condoning and advertising that onto his channel. Frisky turning a 180 on who is and who is not a victim the moment Peaches criticized the Fox Mafia, thus her beliefs and ideologies were about as fucking solid as a wet noodle. And Frisky fantasizing that a previous victim of sexual assault should get sexually assaulted again. This was later extended to the entirety of the Fox Mafia by spotlighting their weird fanfictions between Peaches and Lio. Now, please, Neorah, point to me where in specific Lio had a problem with the general shitposting that goes on in that server. This is like your third biggest claim against Lio and the Senate, and it's just flat out not even one that's accurate. You've constantly derailed this document with it, but it's not even relevant to the issues that were actually taken with your group. I can even agree that the Senate should be careful with how they joke about specific people within that server. I think that could be a very cogent point that could actually start up like a discussion about ethics and optics. And while even then the conversation with Theron extended back to the Fox Mafia, there's like substance there. There's something to latch on to and think about. But that's only not the point that you've been making this whole time, but the point that you have been making is probably the flimsiest fucking straw man I've seen in my 7 to 8 years as a commentator. If you're going to make a point about hypocrisy, you need to understand what was actually being said and where someone stands to begin with. And you have shown time and time again in this document that you just don't. Fuck off.
Are you deaf?
People, rise up.
Hold on. The culture of this room is, yes, sometimes people think they're funny and they have to be told to sit down and shut up because they're not able to tell the culture of the room either, which is something you're struggling with. So I want you to be very well aware of a couple things here. But before I tell you, I have a couple questions.
Wait,
Are you
hold on,
actually like?
hold on. My fucking microphone was muted. I didn't hear a word you said. Say it again. Like the last 5 minutes of you saying something.
Okay, hold on.
No. My cat's on the keyboard. I didn't hear what you said. I didn't hear anything you said. My cat's on the keyboard.
I can't hear you. Can you speak up?
My cat's on the keyboard. I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, no, I took away his mouth privileges. He doesn't get to use it anymore.
Hold on. No, I want to do this. Come on, speak up. Let's hear you.
I said my cat's on the keyboard. I didn't hear anything you just said. You're like the quietest
Sorry,
person.
Can you repeat that real quick, please? I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
What? Yeah, you see, we can do this all day long. You're not clever and you're not smart. So I'm going to ask you again a couple questions here. How well do you know Gilded Poo? Do you actually like this guy?
What? I didn't hear you. Someone said something about my mom.
Yeah, she's a slut.
Just so you're aware, since you're trying to play this game.
No, I
record
literally
all of our
can't
calls.
hear you. Your band of people are talking. I can't hear. You're the quietest person.
We are
in here.
recording the call, stupid. So congratulations on admitting that number 1, you posted it. Number 2, you attacked Gilded Poo here. And number 3, you did it on his behalf. Thank you for all of that information. Really helpful.
Okay, I'm glad I could help.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what you can do next is you can get me your mom's number.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's 1-800 go fuck yourself.
No, I don't think I'm going to. Instead, I'd rather do your mom, so get her on the phone.
All right,
That's too many numbers. That's not a real
know
phone
when
number.
you can come up with something more creative than something that I could
Are
probably
you scared? Are you scared? Wait, hold on. No. Let's do that. Are you scared that your mommy's gonna spank you if she finds out what type of people you talk to? Is that what you're scared of?
I'm scared I'm going to spank his mom.
Absolutely terrified.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how scared are you of your mom?
Like 1 bazillion gazillion.
Oh, she's that fucking ugly, dude?
I have
Jesus
another
Christ.
question. Why was Jack Redplay in your server?
I have no idea who the fuck that is.
I think you know exactly who that is because he came into your server and then got banned not shortly after because he saw you were beefing with us and decided to try to piggyback. He's in there.
Wait, hold on. You literally talk faster than a fucking retard and
British
without
Jack.
riddling. I
Oh,
didn't
that
understand
guy.
a word you slow down, gerbil. I can't hear what you're
What?
saying.
Dude, this guy sounds like he has like fucking, I don't know, like some kind of autism. Like, are you on the spectrum? And how severely are you on said spectrum?
Very bad. I'm low functioning.
Well, you know what, man? I
shit
don't know what the
myself.
spectrum is, but you should get off that ASAP.
I can't help it.
Well, I can help you very easily. Is there a very high point anywhere around you, like I don't know, like very high place?
Your voice.
This guy said you're talking about originality. Bessie goes, I don't like your voice. Stupid.
I'll just fuck your dad and give him a better son.
No, I said I would do that with your mother because it makes no sense to say you're gonna have sex with the dad.
Oh, so cool. You're just
No, Lio, actually, I will. Hold on.
You're a retarded.
What?
Cool, thank
What?
God.
I'm going to correct the record. Lio, you said you were going to have sex with his mom. Opal said that she was going to have sex with his dad and give him a better son. I just said that I was going to fuck his father till he loves me. That's all. That's what happened.
Well,
there.
just make sure that you edit that part out because I don't want you guys to look really bad when you're making fun of one person.
No, we absolutely will keep it in because this is the best you can possibly do. You're literally a child trying to A-log for some goofy little dude who films pathetic videos about politics in his mommy and daddy's
Dude,
bathroom.
oh my
And
god, I
super
can't believe how
upset.
good you are at this. Holy shit.
No, I couldn't hear a word you said.
This segment of the call shows the reasoning why others never go into Senate is due to their liking of server muting others to manipulate the call entirely, so they say that others are scared but they themselves are. They don't like it when they don't get their way in the call, showing a clear distinction of immaturity on Lio's and Senate's end.
Are you really saying that because the Senate muted someone who is obviously more interested in trolling than actually having a discussion? Good God, you're gormless.
God, your memes are shit, bro.
They are actually, they're
Low tier
verifiably
memeage
the
right there,
shittiest.
my man. Low tier memeage. Get better memes.
The lowest tier. You keep.
How's Verizon treating? Hold on. How's Verizon treating you?
Verizon? They dropped me. I have to use like fucking whatever the fucking thing you have to buy to use the internet once a month. It's like $25. I buy it at Walmart, Dollar General, whatever.
Sorry, I zoned out for a second. What the fuck did he say?
Does
not
Leo
very
Man want to
smart.
rape me in the woods?
Lio has shown yet again that he is willing to regain personal information from others even though they are not a pedophile for the sake of intimidation and try to silence someone by saying "How's Horizon for you?" basically stating a county within Ohio. Clear attempt on IP grabbing Gallagher. Now a repetitive pattern is shown that Lio is willing to regain your personal information for the sake of intimidation no matter if you're a victim, a troll, or anything less of a pedophile.
Dude, even the troll was able to hear Verizon. You know, the phone company. They even made a whole joke about it. Are you fucking for real? I just can't with you anymore. You have to be single-handedly either the dumbest or the second most malicious individual I have ever talked about on this channel. The English language would not be enough to properly define just how injudicious, how inept, how asinine this document is. You are a know-nothing numbskull, a dim candle in a light bulb factory, a bubble-headed clown in a no-ring circus. Your stupor befuddles me, and your obdurate willingness to just flat-out make up shit is embittering. I would put this tirade into words you and your posse would be more familiar with, but I, for one, have been trying to remove ableist slurs from my vernacular. Good God! And I'm still not done.
To conclude, Lio, Hopeless Peaches, Queen Serafina, all of the higher UPS of Senate knew what Coyote has done. They went after Ka and his community for nothing. Only guilt by association. They gave veiled threats to victims, one being doxed, which is me, slandered, the victims, Ka, and his whole community. Because they want to eliminate Ka and anyone who dares to go against them for stating factual statements including stating their inconsistencies, double standards, and on their moral values that revolves around nothing but optics, an excuse to save face from factual criticism. Thank you for this nonsensical bullshit, Senate. Because of your nonsense, Coyote Lovely is taking full advantage by attempting to regain a platform. You have taken advantage and bombarded Ka and his whole community with senseless bullshit. The proof in the pudding below.
So to list out, more conspiracy about just how much anyone knew about Coyote's alp with Sappho, more chosen obliviousness as to the actual criticism raised against the Fox Mafia, more bad faith reading of actions taken, specifically in regards to that stupid doxing and nickname point, and more allegations of inconsistent behavior without understanding the morals of the people you're making accusations of, followed by one link that doesn't work, and one that leads to Kiwi Farms, which I seem to have a hard time loading for some reason, though I don't know how much I actually care to go over an entire Kiwi Farms thread that is about Coyote Lovely specifically for Lio. So, we're done with the main meat of the document, though we are not done with the full document. The final stretch of this document is actually a lot shorter than it leads on, because it's at this point we start seeing the larger typefaces and overly long spacing. Seriously, the doc as a whole may be 52 pages, but after page 24, the actual length without any unnecessary padding would wind up being half that length. 14 pages instead of the 28 we got. It's still a number to cover, but it's less than you'd think, so let's go over the rest of this via lightning round. We start with Neorah posting unedited versions of videos that were linked before, mentioning how there are probable edits instead of, actually having proof that there were edits. However, the first link is down, the second one leads to Peaches' still upload video, which is a smart move. If there were probable edits, they'd totally be in the current upload, I guess. Third link is currently down, and so is the fourth one. Red Link must be so lonely having his cooler colored compatriots not being saved. Video game references aside, we can pretty much ignore this whole section. We can also ignore the section where Neorah just makes another statement at just how much the Senate knew about anything without any further proof, hoping that repeating the claim would make their initial allegations that much stronger, I suppose. This is then followed by new allegations with just constant broken archive links. Alright, so we're at this point in the script now, like fucking about 25 pages in, got a little bit of extra, so about 26 pages into the script. And I keep making references to these broken archive links, right? So that's because these links here, right? These archive.is links. I'm not sure what's going on here, but every time I click them, I get brought to this, like, this page. It's like, oh, one more step. Please complete the security check to access archive.is. I'll click. I'm not a robot. and it'll just keep bringing me to, like, these little CAPTCHA things, but it'll keep doing it over and over and over again. So I don't know what site this is, but it's not a particularly good archive site when every time you use it, it winds up just bringing you to the same fucking, like, need for CAPTCHAs and shit. I can't reach your archive. This is the same link. It's archive.is. It's just this. I don't know what's going on. These archive links just do not work. So we'll skip this section too. All we get from the last link anyway is the insinuation of double standards from Lio in regards to Cedric.
No matter what, because...
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, when you favorite somebody, or rather you follow them, when they upload, does it show up on your feed like Twitter, or is it something you have to go look for, is my question.
It's something you have to go look for, but it also, like, shows how many people you are actually watching. So, essentially, like, you can't hide who you're watching on the site.
No. Well, that's obvious, because that's how you found out about all that, right? So my question was, all right, let's just, because with one of the guys whose name I can't remember, Ice something or the other, Coyote had liked, like, some sort of wolf furry. And sometimes, and I think it happens with a lot of people who like art, they might look at one piece of art and follow the person without being fully aware of everything else they post, because it does happen sometimes. So that is why it's a little less concerning to me, because I think it's happened to just about anybody who follows an artist.
But as stated before, and will continue to repeat, it was only ever brought up against Cedric because following sketchy artists was brought up against Coyote first. This is followed by Neorah going back to the whole IP grabber kit thing, and I just don't care because Lio never denied using them at all, just denied using it against you to find a public fucking nickname. Take off the tinfoil hat, for the love of God, you don't know what doxing is, so please shut up. Oh, here's something we can actually talk a bit about. Apparently, Lio doesn't treat victims the same way he tells others to. And the proof of that? A video that Neorah made that was supposed to outline this fact. We'll quickly go over it, it's only 3 minutes after all.
Recording of the 3 particular clips that Lio has it basically clips from the Lio's Coyote Lovely video, and these are going to show another inconsistency and double standard that Lio has stated, and I think his own words would speak much volumes. The reason why I'm also making this recording, just in case if he were to delete this particular video, just for safety measures. Enjoy.
Bare minimum. You don't sit there and talk trash to somebody you tried to help, somebody you recognize as a victim, and you insult them and tell them you don't care. When I had to deal with outing Vita after what he did to Jazz, because that was the first victim we knew about. Jazz previously, matter of fact, earlier that year, months before, just a few, tried to get a legit hacker against my wife and I after we dealt with the Zoophile police. And you know what I did with Jazz when Jazz came to us and told us about what Vita did? I didn't say, well, you tried to harm my family, you can piss off. No, I said, all right, let's do this. How do we protect you and how can we help? And Jazz has not spoken to me after blaming me, well, except for one time when I asked her a question, after blaming me for a suicide attempt. And you know what? Even if she came to me today, and said, I need help, I'm dealing with a predator, regardless of what she's done to me, I would help her. The way you showed in that stream just tells us that whether or not you care about a victim is only predicated on whether or not they're nice to you.
Oh, wait. I feel like we've been here before. Yeah, no, this is just the clips you played in your little Twitter thread, aren't they? Well, now that we're this far in, I guess I can fully elaborate on why there aren't double standards here. Because Lio is talking about in the event where someone who has wronged him goes to him with another predator. We recall that Coyote claimed that not all victims were created equal, which is dumb. We can all agree on that. Coyote not helping Fursky because Fursky is a bit of a shithead isn't good on Coyote being a predator hunter because it shows that his help is situational. This doesn't mean that we're a victim to turn around and try to go after Lio after a predator is dealt with, that they can get away with everything scot-free and you just have to lay down and take it. And I think that is where the disconnect is here. Neorah is under the presumption that this is all or nothing, not that this statement in of itself contains nuance.
Because the obligation I had to Fursky was already fulfilled. The way that I saw it, if the cops were going to handle it, they were gonna fucking handle it. If they weren't, they fucking weren't. And not only that, the fucking video that they gave me, there wasn't a lot I could do besides that, because the fucking video contained admission from the person she had asked before me that that person went ahead and doxed the person that she was fucking going against. What am I supposed to do at that point with that being my only evidence?
What you do is you sit in a call and you walk her through how to make a police report to her local precinct. As I have done with multiple people. And not all of them do it. What's his name? Grizzly Dometic's probably still walking free because his victim refused to. That's what you do, Coyote. Because you know what? You'll travel with Monstrous all the way to Opal's house to pick her up and show her how to do a police report at a precinct. You already did it once. You already did it once. So that's what you do.
Where were the double standards there again, Neorah? Did Lio not make a police report where needed? Did Lio not help a victim do that when they needed it? I was kind of hoping there would be more evidence of Lio's misdoings, considering how much you harp on some of these claims, but nothing is here. I'm not really surprised, but somehow I'm still disappointed.
Tolerated. If you're going to be in this field, you have to care about the people you're helping. And just as importantly, you have to operate ethically. You don't make tolerated. If you're going to be in this field, you have to care about the people you're helping. And just as importantly, you have to operate ethically.
But again, nothing that you have shown us in this doc really says that Lio has done otherwise. Unless you can show us a situation in which Lio, when helping a victim, doesn't care about the victim or acts within his own ethics, then you really have no point with any of these clips.
So what does this tell you? In this particular clip, right here, the more important one, Lio has stated, no matter what, how the victim treats him, only him, he will treat them with utmost respect in all aspects.
That is not what he said, and I would implore you not to add words and connotations to his point. Lio never said that he'd respect a victim in every aspect all the time. He specifies that when you're helping them, you respect them then. You give them the care that they need to get through the situation and to deal with it accordingly. Not tell them to their face that you don't care like Coyote did with Fursky.
And then on top of all of that, you have the temerity to first and foremost not even want to get on that stream later on, not even recognizing what this could do to you. When you and I have a conversation, you make excuses for why you can't do it, only to then show up 30 minutes after the stream gets into. After, by the way, we've been dragged into this nonsense. After I have people sitting there looking at me sideways because of your actions, thinking I knew. If I had known, I would have tossed you out earlier. But even after all of that, you sit in a call on that stream with somebody you had apparently wronged, and I didn't know the full extent of everything. Because here's the truth of the matter when it comes to Fursky Doodle. Fursky Doodle is in the same situation you could say that Opal was at one point. Fursky needed help. Did you file the report? Yeah, probably. I don't have anything to say that you didn't, other than the fact that it does not exist in any sort of record database. That could be caused by anything. A hiccup on the internet. Database deletion, because I've had to deal with that sometimes too in my regular work day. I understand that may not work. Or maybe something wasn't filled out right and the cops just trashed it. I don't know. But I can't also get you to prove a negative. But bare minimum, Coyote. Bare minimum. You don't sit there and talk trash to somebody you tried to help. Somebody you recognize as a victim. And you insult them and tell them you don't care. When I had to deal with outing Vita after what he did to Jazz, because that was the first victim we knew about. Jazz previously, matter of fact, earlier that year, months before, just a few, tried to get a legit hacker against my wife and I after we dealt with the Zoophile police. And you know what I did with Jazz when Jazz came to us and told us about what Vita did? I didn't say, well, you tried to harm my family, you can piss off. No, I said, all right, let's do this. How do we protect you and how can we help? And Jazz has not spoken to me after blaming me Well, except for one time when I asked her a question, after blaming me for a suicide attempt. And you know what? Even if she came to me today, and said, I need help, I'm dealing with a predator, regardless of what she's done to me, I would help her. The way you showed in that stream just tells us that whether or not you care about a victim is only predicated on whether or not they're nice to you. You're right, you do need out of this. That is abhorrent, egregious, unacceptable on every level. Everything you have done here is unacceptable, and it reflects on everybody.
It's a matter of how much you care about a victim in the moment when they need help, not letting a victim get away with anything that they want. That's never how it works. A victim can still do bad things. A victim can still victimize another person. It should never be because you are a victim you are allowed to do crimes.
No matter what, even would do anything he can to help them.
Yes, to help them. Not when they're not dealing with something and attacking you. I'm pretty sure by that point Lio would say that you have the right to acknowledge and fight back, as emphasized by the fact that he'd been doing that exact thing.
Now when it comes to victims who are in the group that he does not like, apparently he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Even to the point of threatening the victim. These are your own words, Lio. Choose your words wisely next time.
Or you could just not twist the meaning of them. That works too. Alright, so that was nothing. Moving on, we then have this whole situation on May 5th that Neorah doesn't really outline. There's not a ton of context here because it seems Neorah was rushing to add this to the document without remembering that this document was supposed to be read by third parties. Apparently, Lio wanted to do a direct confrontation with Cass and Cedric, and after some nosy third parties wanted to join in to outnumber Lio, Lio specified that third parties before didn't seem to change anything, and according to Neorah, that means Lio is a coward somehow. But I guess it's okay for Fursky to not want to negotiate and have a discussion with people in the same vein. Something that Lio was calling out within Neorah's own screenshot. Like, homie, this shit is nothing. Lumi apparently offered to try to make a neutral server about all this, which doesn't say anything other than that Lumi was trying to get a discussion going. I think Neorah ties that into this next bit where Lio goes against the Fox Mafia, calling them all deviant, pedo-colluding, pro-doxing, larpy piles of disease, but I'm not really sure. That said, I think it's hilarious that the pro-doxing thing was what Neorah honed in on and not everything else. Like, I just don't know what else this could be trying to prove exactly. Neorah just kind of states what is in the screenshots without tying it back to really any point of critique against Lio and the Senate. It's just kind of a raw reaction, directly calling out to Lio within the doc, and it doesn't really show less cowardice when you do that, because you don't seem to want to go directly address Lio either, so you don't get to puff out your chest because you're doing it in a Google Doc. By the way, that whole Aftermath video just kind of proves that y'all only want to talk within your grounds. Guys, I'm a fucking slideshow commentator. I make pointless videos talking about nerd shit all day, and I've been in like 3 Senate calls now. You get no excuse. But even then, these screenshots of Lio getting people into Senate doesn't say much more than that Lio is done playing by Cass Warfox's rules. And that makes sense considering every time Lio has talked with Cass, it was always within his server or group DMs with other Fox Mafia members. Never is it held in Lio's chat. It's been a one-sided field with Cass wanting home advantage every time. And of course, during the Coyote Lovely situation, that was fine. Information was being given and a discussion could be had. That is no longer the case anymore, at least in accordance to what we're given within these screenshots and your funny little video. By the way, no, I'm not going over that whole video. There's nothing really worth of substance in it. I'm also not going over the Vita situation either, mostly because that is also unrelated to everything else. Plus, I'm not very knowledgeable in it, and I can't really reach Kiwi Farms to get brushed up on it all. The final thing addressed in this document is in regards to a user named Lagovert, someone else who Lio has seemingly worked with who seems to follow some of their own off-color characters. Lago themselves seems to have addressed some of this, and it does seem to be somewhat accurate, if albeit in bad faith, but you get one, Neorah. Way to go. Anyway, that's it for me. Let's wrap this up by moving on to what I was initially asked going into this document. What are my thoughts as a third party? Holy shit, I don't even know where to begin. There's a bit of an expectation when you go into a situation like this that requires a level of skepticism behind it. If the evidence can hold its own, then good, you can go with the flow until new information comes up to debunk it. But if a critical eye without much info can look at this and say, "You're an idiot," that's probably not a good sign for the allegations on their own. Again, I'll be fair and give you that there are some valid criticisms that could be brought up against Lio and the Senate going off of what's here. Lio could maybe be more careful with the implications to his potshots. How Senate treats people can be a bit desired. Lago does need to be answered for if Coyote and Cedric needed to address their follows prior. These are actually valid points of critique that can be talked about, but barring Lago, these things were not what you brought up, and even when accounting for Lago, we come back to how it was the Fox Mafia were the ones mentioning people's follows first, so even that one is a bit shaky. Otherwise, everything else in the main chunk of the allegations is just provably incorrect. Either because you're reading bad faith into everything, making assumptions about people's characters on flimsy reasoning, or maliciously twisting the meaning of statements to point back at the enemy. If Lio and the Senate are as bad as you say they are, then you don't need to do this. You don't need to make up shit, because their real actions would speak for themselves. Some of your evidence went missing, which tells me you need a better archive. You omit the actions of your friends from this to shield against their problems, and good God, you just keep harping on insignificant details that aren't at all important to your cause. It's vexing. Like, I don't know what all you intended to do with this document, but it failed rather ostentatiously. Now, there is this lingering question that confuses me that I really want Neorah herself to answer, and that would be, what would be the motivation for Lio to have kept what you claimed he kept secret? Especially when during the Coyote stuff especially, he was very willing to work alongside Cass Warfox, Gilded Pooh, and the rest of the Fox Mafia. He was very open to give what he knew, he was very cooperative when asked questions, and when everything finally came to a close, Lio dragged Coyote into a call directly after the reveal of Coyote's behavior, and not only chewed him out about it there, but made a public statement about Coyote after the fact. Would someone trying to hide everything really be so willing to help expose the behaviors of another in the group, knowing that it'd make the group as a whole look worse? I understand troll shielding is a term y'all like to throw around a lot, but to say that's the motivation here with Lio does not add up. He was even willing to step down as a predator hunter and instead give Cass everything that went to him directly, while he was working on exposing Coyote. So, to claim that as the motive would just not make any sense when everything is all strung out on the table. Not only is Neorah bad at establishing time frames, but she also forgoes the importance of motive throughout this document, and I think that's far more important to understand is a flaw with her doc. Now, I want to come back to my earlier disclaimers, that I do not hold much information within this situation, I only know what I've heard from Lio's content and what's in this document. And while I might be friends with Lio, the Senate as a group I know do not like me. I am also not involved. I am a slideshow commentator specifically. I'm on the lowest rung of the totem pole here, so like, the ethics and table manners of what goes into things like this, some of it probably sort over my head admittedly, most of it seemed to come down to common sense, but there could be things I'm missing, I'll admit. I'm not perfect, no matter how careful I try to be when researching things like this. Some things can slip through the cracks, and it's not to say that there isn't probably criticisms one could have of the Senate or Lio himself. No person nor group is perfect, though when in regards to the Fox Mafia and Cass Warfox, something tells me that you tend to think otherwise. But we'll see. And I know I'm probably gonna have a bit of a target on me releasing this video. These people all surround the kiwi farms, so I'm pretty sure a lot of my comments are just going to be flooded by, like, doodle diapers and transphobia. Frankly, it's nothing I haven't dealt with for the past several years. It's rather tiring and y'all really need new material, but I promise you, after this point, I'm probably not gonna make another video on this. At the end of the day, check yourself before shit blows up in your face. Learn to take an L and move on. It's something far too many people need to learn. Anyway, that's it for me. I've got a bunch of time-specific unserious videos on my backlog, so there's probably not gonna be a commentary for me for, like, the rest of the year. Maybe. We'll see. But until then, to everyone who watched this video, have a good day, and take care.